Tired of people, the main character bought a mountain. His marriage fell apart, everything drained him, and he decided he needed girls. Planning to live as a recluse, he bought one of the two mountains through relatives on his mother's side, and settled in a house halfway up that looked suitable to live in. After 3 days, the hero grew lonely and went to the village of Ray where a festival was underway. At a local fair, he spotted some colored chickens, thought they were rare, and took 3 at once. He won't be lonely anymore. He received food as a bonus, and the hero went home. 1 month later, the main character is Shohei Sano, a 25-year-old single man who is not currently looking for a girlfriend or a marriage partner. The young man says it would be great to receive that kind of energy. Warmer weather makes the grass grow stronger. The main task is to remove the weeds that grow rapidly. After some time, he realized that no matter how much he mowed the grass, it never got any shorter. The mown grass won't go to waste because he has chickens. Show that he began growing vegetables. If he hadn't acted, insects would have eaten the vegetables. He got carried away and scared his chickens. All 3 chicks have now grown up. They were huge. He's surprised chickens can grow that big. They hatched only a month ago. They're over 50 centimeters tall, and Pochi already has a red comb. The fair appears to be selling males that weren't meant to be sold. Tama and Yuma look like females. An old man offered help if the hero needed it, but the hero refused. These are his treasured companions, and he hopes they will walk side by side throughout their lives. Meet Pochi. Pochi met a snake in a field. She hissed at him, but he stayed calm and hissed back. Show that Hai's chickens do not understand many things. He said the grass is fine and should be left alone, and Pochi repeated his warning not to touch it yet. Tama and Yuma then began repeating the phrase. Juno had never heard a rooster speak. He cursed and Pochi echoed the word. Then the other 2 started repeating the same thing. He asked them in his head not to repeat it. Without warning, one of the roosters lunged forward. The young man didn't understand at first, but the rooster had caught the viper again. Shohei picked up the creature and put it in a bottle. He praised Thomas, and she wagged her tail happily. The hero realized that vipers usually don't eat chickens. Yuma also ran behind the house and then appeared with a viper in her beak. Shohei thought there were too many vipers around his house and it was dangerous. Yuma had also found a viper, so he let them eat it. They pounced eagerly. The young man was terrified that the chickens were betraying the vipers. Lately, the hero's life has been like this. A river runs nearby, so fresh water is never a problem. 3 years ago, Mr. Shuya lived in the house the hero now occupies. So when the hero arrived, the place already had almost everything needed for daily life. Because of his old age, his whole family lives at the foot of the mountain. The hero understood what it meant. Pochi told the others he allowed them to eat vipers. Thomas and Yuma brought him snakes as a gift. This continued for 2 days. The old man was surprised that chickens ate vipers and added that it was a waste. He suggested there were so many vipers that people stopped bothering them, and he said it was probably because the local house was empty. If I'm alive next time, he'd buy them to make the snake shake. At first, Shohei wanted to refuse because it was too scary, but the old man said he would teach him everything. Surprised that chickens eat vipers, he recommended eating the vipers for no more than 3 days and expected no problems. A week earlier, he had been there, and now the hero returns to the old man. Spotting one of the roosters, he noticed how much it had grown. Yuma arrived with the hero. They discussed selling this female's eggs. Then the hero said he had come to offer vipers, not eggs. The young man placed 2 bottles holding vipers on the table. Grandpa was surprised that he had caught 2. He told him he'd pay for them later. The man did not like that. The old man's wife greeted the young man and offered him food. He thanked her, and she asked him to be careful because he had so many vipers. He said everything was fine for now, though they might be nesting near his house. The woman said she had a friend who could ask him to exterminate them on his property. Shohei refused, saying his chickens were good at catching them. Everyone looked at Yuma. A young man told her she had caught a viper that day. The woman offered the rooster some vegetables and she readily agreed. Shohei realized the animal understood exactly what was being said to it. The old man gave the boy 1,400 yen and some vegetables, and the hero thanked him. She offered him the leftover canned goods and drinks from the party, and he thanked her. Growing sad, she said that if she told her sons about it, they would only get angry. The young man was surprised. He gets home in the evening. Only the general store in the village at the mountain's base sells meat. The boy asks Yuma whether she has eaten enough, and she says she has. Shohei got to the store. Children stood nearby, choosing things when they suddenly spotted the hero and the chicken. The boys started talking about how huge the chicken was. One boy agreed with them. The girl asked whether it laid eggs. The hero said she was only about a month old, so it was still too early. The boy didn't believe her and shouted that the man was lying because the chicken was huge. Yuma slipped behind the man. The locals were good-natured, but he was convinced the chickens understood speech. The shop assistant welcomed the man and told him he was the second person off the mountain today. Shohei was surprised to be called the second from the mountain and wondered if he actually had a neighbor. The young man did not know anyone lived on the neighboring mountain and thought about going in to say hello. When he got home, he called the old man. The man asked his wife if Shohei had a neighbor, and she took the phone from her husband. She said he had 2 neighbors. The girl to the east moved in about 2 years ago, and the one to the west moved in about 3 years ago. A sign in the mountains warns of wild animals. He would rather meet them in the village. The young man decided it was better not to go to them uninvited and added that such signs were posted on every mountain. She hasn't seen them herself, but there are wild boars and bears here. The hero understood her. They didn't know what kind of wild animal he might meet there. Many people underestimate how dangerous bears are because they usually only see them in zoos. The hero remembers reading horror stories about bear attacks in Hokkaido, which terrified him. Getting a hunting license before moving here would probably have helped him. As it stands, he can't even hunt with traps, let alone shoot. Some locals have licenses, but most are elderly men who no longer hunt. Shohei knows that if a bear appears, someone will have to deal with it. The animals surrounded the man. After patting them on the head and praising them, he said that if there were bears here, they should also be more careful. He suggested Pochi and Tama wash up, but they refused. That's why Yuma joined him in the hot bath. And sitting there, the young man knows he must fight the pests too, because if he suffers later, he will have huge problems. And without him, he cannot live in the mountains. Yuma remembered being little in the bathtub and how the rubber duck used to be her size. Now it's many times bigger. Then she lifted her gaze to the night sky. Startled, the hero shouts about what it is. His animals brought him a boar carcass. He believed they had gone out early to play, but they had gone hunting. Realizing he needed his uncle's help, he called him. When he arrived and saw Boris's carcass, he asked how he had killed it. The hero said the chickens had taken his life. The old man could not see how that was possible. The young man said when he returned home after his morning rounds, they had already dragged him in. It was surprising. The chickens were pleased with themselves. The man asked the boy what he planned to do with the boar. The boy said he wanted to eat it if he could. He had no idea what to do with the cutting. The old man said he would find someone. At that moment, the human noticed something in the bushes. The old man says the meat must cool and it will take time, so he tells the boy to come back tomorrow. There is nothing he can do about it. Shohei apologizes for the trouble and for making him work again. He said there was nothing to worry about and that the boar was so big it was astonishing. The man turned to the chickens and said they had killed him so they had the right to eat him, and that he would take him home today and bring him back ready tomorrow. They agreed. Shohei thanked the man and said he appreciated it. Uncle told them to do more than just defeat wild boars. Don't bother chasing the young ones. He told them to look for adult boars because only adults are dangerous to people. Adults give birth to about 4 piglets and do not have more while raising them. Once those piglets grow up, the adults breed again so they reproduce quickly. Wild animals damage the crops, so we should build fences, but that will cost money. You can set up scare baits, but they are not very effective, so it is better to let the chickens get rid of the pests. When it was time to leave, he and Shohei loaded the carcass into the car. At that moment, the young man hears the old man's delighted cries. Yuma was walking toward him with a viper clamped in her teeth. The man realized it was meant for him. Then he said he would pay him for everything tomorrow evening. Shu felt indignant because he was already helping him with the boar. The other man replied those were different matters. The young man understood and said he would come by tomorrow evening. Curious about life in the countryside, the hero wanted to know what it was like. The people here were very kind and helpful. He petted Yuma and thanked him. The hero considered bringing Abe into the world. The chickens supported the idea. The man hopes the neighbors will be there too. He wants to meet them. Someone woke the boy and told him to get up. Reluctantly, he rose, opened the door, and saw Tama. Chickens walked into the man's house and began wandering around. He told them he would only visit his uncle that evening, but his chickens were very hungry. That evening, everyone sat down at the same table. The hero greeted everyone and thanked them for everything. The old man handed him a beer and said he was late. The aunt asked whether the man was the one who caught the boar. Another woman said he was very reliable. Shohei scratched his head and said it was all thanks to the others' help. The old man shouted that they had hardly helped him. Watching the meat roast, the man realized he should have come earlier to help. He apologized to his uncle's wife for not being helpful. She said everything was fine. They'd decided to start early. She hoped he would enjoy it. Her focus shifted to Pochi, Tama, and Yuma. She offered them meat, and they readily agreed. The young man thanked the woman. In reply, she said she should be the one to thank him. It had been so long since she ate boar meat that she could not remember the last time. Someone arrived and apologized for being late. The young man turned to see who had come. He was named Mia, a girl. Everyone greeted her. Shohei focused on the creature at her feet. They greeted Mia, but she looked away. The hero glanced down to see what lay at her feet. The girl apologized for not coming to help. The woman said it was fine because getting down from the mountains was not easy. The hero agreed with her. Auntie introduced Mia to her neighbor who lives in the west, and they greeted each other. She turned her head away, shyly. The woman observed they both had unusual pets. Shohei had large chickens, and Mia had a large lizard. After learning he had chickens, she suggested they keep their distance. His eyes widened in surprise when an enormous lizard appeared behind the girl. He was stunned. This isn't just a lizard, it's a monitor lizard or a dragon. When the young man asked whether he could eat his chickens, she said she could not answer for him. The old man called the man to the table, and he told the girl they would talk more. The man told a stranger Shohei had brought them the boar he was cutting up, and the hero thanked him. He replied that sometimes it's helpful to practice so skills don't become dull. The man was surprised that the chickens had brought down the boar. The guy has excellent chickens that even catch vipers. The hero said his chickens are very bloodthirsty. They can be relied upon to catch another boar. The guy can contact this man. Thanks to these chickens, they can drink snake sock every day. Another villager said he would pay 3,000 yen for each viper the boy caught. The uncle was indignant that someone would offer so much and still not buy anything from him. The woman shouted that the meat had gotten warm, a negotiation between a chicken and a lizard. Mia's pet was eating meat when Pochi came over. The monitor lizard looked at the meat. Realizing the chickens had caught the boar, he shook his head. Morning had arrived. The man slept in a room with other men. He climbed out of bed. He left the room yawning and saw the girls busy in the kitchen. Mia was among them as he greeted everyone and asked them to drink some water. They nodded to him. The uncle's wife asked whether they had met before. The young man said he had only heard her name. The girl apologized, gave her name as Miyako Katsuragi, and added that she also lived in the mountains. The young man explained that the girl lived in the east. She thought it over. He said he'd only moved here a month ago and didn't really know much, so he'd welcome any advice she could give. The hero was given water, and he asked where his chickens were. The woman said she had fed them vegetables and that they were now in the garden. The man thanked her and said he would go see them. Mia decided to go with him. They went out into the yard, where a lizard slept under a tree and the chickens pecked at vegetables. The hero called his chickens and Thomas approached him. Squatting down, he stroked his head. He noticed the animals had grown again because they had been eating boar meat, but they still grew so much in one day. Mia noticed it and asked the boy if it was normal for them to have such a tail, and the young man agreed, saying it was clearly not a chicken tail, but a reptile tail. The girl said birds descended from dinosaurs. Shohei then looked at her monitor lizard, and she said his name was Tatsuki. He was very large for a lizard, and she bought him at a stall at the fair. Shaw said he bought his chickens there too. She found it strange, he agreed, and they exchanged glances. Then they smiled, and the hero realized her lizard looked more like a dragon. This might be a real dragon. Smiling, Mia said she'd always wanted a dragon. She finally understood that Tatsuki was her dragon. She then said his chickens were cockatrices. Shaw thought about what she had said. Curlisks are huge, chicken-like monsters, and he heard they could turn people to stone. Mia apologized and said she just loves fantasy. He replied that it was true, and that they reminded me of them very much. Their stories are also getting longer every day. Shaw asked what he was eating that belonged to her. She turned away and said he eats anything that ends up in his mouth, so it's strange he won't touch his chickens. He treats them as mere snacks and even eats large birds of prey. The young man asked if she had that many vipers around the house. Mia said there used to be some, but he ate almost all of them. The dragon frightens the man. When Shohei asked about the boars, she said she'd seen one once, but it ran away as soon as Tatsuki saw it. Many deer lived there too, and he often caught and ate them. The girl turned to the animal and asked him to catch a deer next time, so they could share it with their neighbors. The young man thought about what it meant that his chickens were not the only ones who understood human language. Sho asked the old man who lived on the westernmost part of the mountain, and he said a man should live there, but a dark-haired girl always comes. The hero convinced himself he did not want to see couples, but he could not imagine how soon he would see her. Walking along the path, the young man thinks May will arrive soon. High in the mountains, he lost track of time, but the local cherry trees usually bloom in May. Last year, he still hadn't admired the cherry blossoms. He asked Yuma to come with him to see the cherry blossoms. They sat down and ate onigiri. So happy, the chicken smiled and said the name Sakura. The hero didn't understand why she was saying this. It was hard to believe she thought the food was Sakura. Pointing to the tree, he told Yuma to look at the cherry blossoms. This is admiration for the cherry blossoms. Shaking her head, she stepped forward and spread her wings. Then she shouted the word Sakura. Steadying himself, the young man says that next year, in the high season, they will go to watch and bring Pochi and Tama with them. Pochi and Tama are guarding the house. Pochi spots something in the bushes. Moments later, he lunged forward and grabbed the viper. Sitting at the table, the hero says Golden Week starts tomorrow. And because he no longer goes to work, he has lost all sense of time. My aunt said many people come to relax during the holidays, so there should be more people. Some tourists set up camps in the mountains without permission, leave trash behind, and cut bamboo and collect wild vegetables without permission. A wire fence stands on his mountain, but he wouldn't be surprised to see someone climb over it. So he put up a variety of signs. The chickens have already caught all the vipers, the boars rarely show up, and the hero no longer wants to see the bears. The next day, the hero decided to check the base of the mountain, and the chickens followed him, imitating him. Time to go to sleep. The chickens sent something and then began circling the door. The man looked at them and didn't know what they wanted. They really wanted to go outside, but they had never asked to go out so late before. He promised to take a flashlight and asked them to wait a moment. He swung the door open. Pochi and Yuma ran forward. Tama pecked Shohei, urging him to run. The young man chased his chickens. Running, the hero thought nothing could be seen in the dark. Then you must stop near the bushes. The man was surprised. Someone told Rin to stop. These are people. Shohei asked whether anyone was here. It turned out to be a man. He shielded his face from the lantern's bright light. Pochi came down from the mountain. The hero asked him what had happened. Standing up, he asked whether the other man really came from Mount Sava. Shore said he was the owner of Mount Sawa, and the stranger apologized for disturbing him, saying his name was Ikawa, and that he came from the neighboring mountain. The hero believed he came from the western mountain. The young man was glad to see him and apologized for not arriving sooner. The other man said it was fine, and that walking in the mountains made coming and going a bit difficult. Shohei asked why the man was here so late. Ikawa faltered, could not find the words, and the man looked over his shoulder and was surprised. Behind the owner of the western mountain, a girl appeared. Our faces were hidden. The man became frightened and fell. Ikawa admitted she was scary. Shaw wonders why no one told him about the ghosts in the mountains. Chickens stepped forward to protect their owner. The man apologized for frightening him. Calling Ran, he opened one of her eyes. The hero finds it odd that a man and a woman are on the nearby mountain in the middle of the night. He figured they were just arguing. The protagonist left because nothing was happening. Ikawa apologized again for frightening him and asked if he would be here tomorrow. The boy said he would. The owner of the western mountains said he would visit the man tomorrow afternoon and then said goodbye. The couple walked deeper into the forest. Shohei can't understand why he didn't go back home on his way and why he went through the forest. The hero wonders what it was all about. The chickens echo his question. Back home, Shaw lay on his bed, said he was tired, and the chickens echoed him. Thinking the chickens pecked him and the insects bit him, he collected all the branches along the way. He needs to sleep, and Ikawa will come tomorrow. The young man noticed his beauty. The protagonist cleans up after Taurus, who came to relax on vacation. Last night's incident with neighbor Ikawa keeps replaying in his head. Turning to Yuma, he asks if they can really see well at night. She came over and lightly pecked his leg, and the young man took it as evidence that females are quieter and can see at night. He kept picking up trash. The amount of trash outraged him. Yuma agreed with him. The hero believes it's fashionable not to fear someone sneaking up on him at night because he has chickens. Rin and Ikawa visit the main character. The man got out of the car and apologized for being late. Ring stayed in the car, and Shohei noticed. He said she was very shy and told the neighbor not to worry. But the hero thought otherwise because the girl was always accompanied by a man, and then one of the hens panicked and screamed. The protagonist turned to see what was going on. Angry, Pochi lunged at the man's guests. The young man could not understand what had suddenly come over Pochi. Akawa said, "This always happens." Many noticed the hero's extraordinary birds. Shohei invited the man inside. Ikawa drives toward Sho's house. Pochi searches for vipers now, but finds none. A passing car caught his eye, and he felt displeased when he saw Rin. The owner of the western mountain gave the protagonist an expensive gift. He hesitated, but Ikawa explained the farmer who owed him money had finally paid, so accepting it was fine, and Sho thanked him. Ikawa grew serious and apologized to the hero for last night. The hero said there was no need. After that, the neighbor asked whether the chickens had always lived in these mountains. Shaw said he bought them at the local village fair. All three were bought there. Colorful chickens are rare, but they have now lost their colors. Ikawa clarified if the hero had met a girl who lives in the east. He said he'd met her just the other day and had no idea what Katsuragi had to do with it. The neighbor is concerned about her pet. Sho said it was a large lizard that looked like a dragon. She bought the lizard at the fair. The hero grew curious about what kind of animal Ikawa had. He said he moved here 3 years ago and bought 2 small snakes at a fair. Before buying them, he checked they were not poisonous. The young man noticed a problem, and Ikawa said they had grown enormous. Shu suggested they might be pythons. The neighbor agreed, but it still wasn't normal how fast they grew. Looking at Yuma, he noticed that his chickens were also huge. We measured them the other day, about 50 centimeters, and their tails are definitely not feathers, looking more like lizard tails, and Katsuragi said they resemble cockatrices. Ikawa suddenly had an idea. He said that for some reason all the animals they bought at the fair were mythical. Shaw dismissed it as a mutation, but the neighbor said that did not explain his snake's growth. Maybe they have too many necks. Ikawa asked whether the hero remembered the girl who always stood beside him, with dark hair and a pale face, and the hero confirmed it while the man added that she was with him today as well. Tenzing, the hero remembered Pochi's reaction. At first he assumed it was a joke. Ikwa wasn't joking. He rose from his chair and said he would introduce them. They left the house and Pucci waited by the car. Yuma picked at the guy's leg. He remembered to keep his back straight. I called, approached Rin and told her that he had told them about her and had asked her to show him. She agreed. A girl stepped out of the car. Her head was human, but her body was a huge snake. Shohei was terrified. Ikawa said it was one of the 2 snakes, though it didn't look like one. The hero agreed. Fear filled his eyes as he looked at the girls. She stood silently. Pucci began to growl at the girl. Her tail draped over Akawa's shoulder. He said it was difficult for him, but she replied that the bird was noisy. Shohei began calming Pochi, saying Rin had come with Ikawa, that she posed no threat, and that he could relax. Pochi agreed but stayed on guard. The hero explained that whenever the neighbor bought one, it was usually a snake. Ikawa confirmed the male looks like a giant snake, and said Rin just started looking that way one morning. The hero felt utterly discouraged. His chickens might still count as ordinary mutants, but his snake does not. Shohei still cannot believe this is not a dream. Rin said she eats insects. Ikawa and Shohei sit on the veranda. The neighbor asks whether he has any insects here to eat. Poki has confirmed this. Shaw said the girl could try searching, but he was busy dealing with pests here. The man said everything was fine. Then running water reached his ears, and he knew a river was nearby. If crayfish are there, Rin will eat them. Expressed surprise that she even ate crayfish. While the snake searched for a snack, the hero asked whether snakes hunt each other. He replied that if the snake was smaller, they could eat it with no problem. It was unlikely any snake would be bigger, and the hero thought it would be frightening if snakes that size were here. The boy told him there were many vipers around his house. Ikawa suggested Rin deal with them. The chief opener refused because his chickens used them for food. Smiling, he agreed because he didn't want the guy to get bitten. Shaw thought he might be a good person. He asked if there were boars or bears on the western mountain. The answer was that no bears had been seen. But one day Ran in 10 caught a boar and ate it. Recently, the hero's chickens caught a boar as well. In the village, Ikawa heard about it. Ikawa is sure they've all encountered it. Shaw asked if there were a lot of wild boars in the area. Ikawa says that because their mountains have so much natural forest, there should be a lot. Also, there are fewer hunters every year. The man said he has a hunting license. The hero asked the man if he had a hunting rifle, and the man said he did, that it was at home and could help with hunting if needed. The hero said Ikawa can be trusted. He says it's hard to judge Ikawa at first glance, but believes Ikawa isn't a bad person. Suddenly you were driven off somewhere, and the next moment she had a viper in her beak. Thanking Yuma, the hero asked her to wait while he fetched a bottle. He then put the viper into a bottle. The neighbor praised him. Shaw said an old man in the village taught him this. Ikawa pictured it and wondered what the man would do to her. He said he would sell it to Uncle Yamoto so Uncle Yamoto could make sake, and the owner of the western mountain agreed. Night was falling, and the hero said goodbye, promising to contact Ikawa if he needed help. They headed home while Yuma and Shohei watched them leave. When he got home, the man scratched his head and said he hadn't expected this. Despite how Ikawa spoke about snakes, they seemed to listen to him. The phone rang suddenly. It was Uncle Yumato. He said he wanted to pick wild vegetables tomorrow. Shui agreed, thanked him, and ended the call. If it's someone he knows, let them take it without asking. His only concern is strangers entering here. It's best to be cautious if someone breaks into his territory, since you can't know what's going on in their heads. Stretching, the hero said they would go on patrol tomorrow as well. Before preparing the bamboo shoots, Pochi walks by the bamboo and remembers how the owner enjoys eating it. He took a bite, but it was tough and bland, so he spat it out. Shohei was collecting trash when someone called him. Uncle Yamoto said he had gathered bamboo shoots and asked the boy to come see him tomorrow. You can harvest bamboo shoots as early as May. A bamboo forest grows at the foot of the mountain on the border with Mount Ikawa. The neighbor also appears to have put up warning signs. This is likely a warning to keep people from getting caught by Rin, since his chickens will immediately attack anyone who climbs in here without permission. They will have only themselves to blame. Stretching a wire fence across the whole mountain was impossible. Owning a mountain turned out to be more trouble than he expected. He likes it here, though. She's hard to handle, but they'll manage. His phone rang again. Mia Katsuragi was calling. He answered, and the first thing he heard was an apology. On the phone, the girl screamed that she had no one else to turn to. She asked the man for help. Miyako Katsuragi asked the man for help, and the main character felt discouraged. He agreed to help her and asked where to go. She shouted, ordering him to go to her mountain. Shohei asked her to calm down and whether the villagers would come to his aid sooner than he could. She said she couldn't ask them. Understanding everything, he said he'd come now. Seeing that Katsuragi is not panicking, the young man wonders if something bad has happened. He told the chickens he was going to Katsuragi and asked what they would do. Tama and Yuma will go with the man, and Pochi will stay for the exam. The gate to Mount Mia was open, though it was usually closed, so the boy felt wary. He pulled up to the girl's house. Meeting him, she immediately apologized that the hero had to come here. The young man told her not to worry, and asked her to explain what had happened. Feeling very embarrassed, she could not find her words. First, she invited him to sit down. Shohei sat sadly on the veranda and asked where Tatsuki was, and the girl said she was near the house. He spotted a lizard, greeted it, apologized for disturbing it, and asked if his chickens could eat insects. The lizard gave the go-ahead. Tears filled the girl's eyes as she thanked him and asked to be forgiven. An awkward pause hung between them. The girl sprang up and remembered she needed to make tea. He tried to stop her, but she had already run to the kitchen. Shohei brought the tea, thanked the girl, and asked if locking the gate was all right. She thanked him once more and apologized. Lowering her head, she said she might use the wrong words but asked permission to speak. Shaw told her it wasn't necessary to tell him if she didn't want to, and she said she wanted him to listen to her. Before moving here, Katsuragi lived with her boyfriend. At first, they were happy while dating, but after moving in together, the relationship turned into a nightmare as domestic violence became the norm, and fearing she would be killed, she fled to her parents' house. But he tracked her down, and the police had to intervene. His parents paid a huge sum to keep her quiet. 2 years ago, she used that money to buy this mountain so she could get away. Her ex wasn't supposed to know where she'd moved, but people in the village said a man had come asking about her. Hearing him sound like her ex, she panicked. Although the girl thinks it might have been someone else, she is still scared, and the hero says it is very frightening. No words come to him. Even if someone says it's someone else, her fear won't fade. The man can't stay the night. Yes, she said Yamanaka knew about the situation and is from the village. She can't rely on Yamanaka because Tatsuki dislikes her husband. Sho asked whether Yamanaka knew her ex was in the village. Yamanaka said she hadn't told him yet. The man thought it would be better to tell them, and then asked what else she wanted to do. The girl looked at the guy in confusion. He told her she had 3 options: hide in the mountains, go back to her parents' house, or keep living peacefully while being more careful. This is what the guy thought. First, she must find out exactly who is after her, and it would be wise to talk to Yamanaka about it. She didn't like the idea of bothering Yamanaka. Then she would have to hide in the mountains. If it really was her ex, the fence wouldn't help. The hero looked at Tatsuki and asked if the lizard would notice when someone entered her territory. She can trust Tatsuki now, and her boyfriend can arrive immediately if anything happens. Though he may seem cold to her, he really doesn't care that much. He told her there is no optimal solution here, so she will have to make the choice herself. Silence settled between them once more. The hero said he would visit Yamato tomorrow and invited the girl to join him to speak to Yamanaka, and she agreed, asking him to contact them. Shohei called Yamato and got permission to bring me along. He told the girl about it, said he would contact her when he went, and she thanked him. She told him she'd cooked rice with bamboo shoots and invited him to try it, and he agreed. She asked him to wait and ran into the house. The hero watched over her and thought he was not serious. She gave him a large box of bamboo shoots, and the young man, surprised by the amount, asked if she really didn't mind, and she said she had gotten carried away and cooked too much. The hero returned home. Pokey looks at the cooked bamboo shoots and remembers how they tasted when he ate them raw. After smelling them, he took a chance, tasted them, and was delighted. When he gets home, he texts the girl to say she can call him if a stranger comes to the mountain, and she doesn't understand why he did it so suddenly. He remembers the moment he broke up with his girlfriend. By his 3rd year at the company, he had saved enough to propose to his girlfriend, and she could not imagine that she had dumped him a month before the wedding. Noticing how shaken his owner was, Yuma rubbed against his leg. He stroked her head and thanked her. 3 months had passed since Shohei and his girlfriend broke up. Moving to the mountains had helped him forget, but the memory had resurfaced in his mind. Looking into it, he asks how he can care for others when he cannot care for himself. Yesterday, the hero had to ask his grandfather to speak to Yamato. Yuma went with him. Pochi and Tama ran toward the mountains, and the boy thought they were just taking a walk and could feed themselves, so he drove up to the store. Shuai asks the saleswoman if tourists often come here during Golden Week. She confirms and says some locals return to visit family and tourists also come. He can't see why tourists come here at all. She says they walk in nature and gather wild plants. They come here on purpose, but there is really nothing here. He bought bamboo shoots, and Yamamoto's wife said she could have gotten up and picked them herself. He said he didn't know how to cook them, so he gave them to him to avoid waste. The woman offered Yuma some vegetables, and she accepted them readily. Auntie said she heard Moya would come too, but the woman had nothing to feed her lizard. The young man reassured her that large reptiles can go several days without food. Auntie still felt uneasy. Someone suddenly appeared. The hero turned to look. It was Mia, and she apologized for being late, handed the woman a basket of herbs, and said she had just mentioned yesterday that it would be nice to collect them. Just then the grandfather came out, and the hero handed him the viper in a bottle. The girl was scared. He apologized for frightening her. Grandfather lifted his glass and proposed a toast to the mountains and the blooming spring. The hero stared at him in bewilderment. Sho asked what spring had to do with it, put on a serious face, and questioned whether Mia and Shohei were not together. The aunt struck her husband on the head with a magazine and demanded to know what nonsense he was talking about, then told the heroes she would make him apologize on his knees. But the young man said that was not necessary and thanked her. As evening fell, the grandfather and aunt thanked the young people for coming and talking with them, and the boy thanked them for the food and their return. Walking home, the hero thinks the Golden Week ends tomorrow. Fortunately, she was unharmed. He noticed his chickens acting strangely, and when he asked what had happened, they just echoed his words. The hero wondered if he had come to love this quiet life. Pochi went out to fish. While there, he played in the water. He then saw a stone with a hollow beneath it, and someone's eyes were shining inside. Walking through the forest, the hero picks up trash and thinks the golden week ended without incident. Katsuragi's ex never showed up. The hero will soon be unable to visit her often. They can't let their guard down, but they want to believe things will be okay. For now, he can only listen to her. Poki suddenly jumped into the water. The hero was surprised and thought he was catching dessert there. The chicken caught a crayfish. Shaw told the chicken he could eat it. Here he remembered I had repeated his words that Rin even ate crayfish. He decided to bring his neighbor a couple of crayfish because his snakes eat them. The hero wrote to Ikawa asking whether Rin eats crayfish. Ikawa said Rin even eats them raw. They cheer her up. The man told Pochi he can catch crayfish easily. When asked to catch a couple for Ikawa, he immediately jumped into the water. Trying to stop him, the hero wanted him to catch them not today, but at least tomorrow. In the end, Pochi caught the couple. 2 days later, the protagonist went to see Ikawa. Only 2 came with him, and when the neighbor asked why, he said one was standing guard. The man noticed the guy's chickens were reliable. He handed Ikawa a bucket of crayfish. The man looked surprised and said he really shouldn't have brought so many. Shaw said he didn't expect Pochi to catch so many in just a few days. It was alarming how many were in such a small river. Ikawa suggested they were probably introduced by people and could survive and reproduce because they are omnivores. After thanking the hero, he promised to bring something the next time they met, and then called Rin and Ten. Giant snakes emerged. The hero still felt uneasy. Rin thanked him. He greeted her and asked if it was Ten. The snake thanked the boy for speaking to Ten. Ikawa asked the snake to avoid eating Sada's chickens. Rin said they could eat now, but asked them to leave something so they could prepare, and invited Shohei in. They stepped into the Western Mountain owner's house. Inside, the place looked stylish. Ikawa said he had to renovate it a second time to accommodate Ten and rent it. Shohei asked permission for his chickens to peck at the grass and insects. The man agreed. The hero clarified that Rain and Ten preferred meat, and Ikawa confirmed they would not be any help with the weeds. Turning to Pochi, the hero said the weeds and insects were at their disposal. The neighbor said they were very reliable. A man treated the boy to tea. The young man noted that even the dishes were stylish. The hero then spotted a metal cabinet in the corner. Inside this cabinet was Ikawa's gun. Seno was surprised and now wants to get a license after learning that bears live here. Ikawa said a new hunting partner would be good, but it's a lot of hassle, and you'll need a permit to own a firearm. They began eating. The hero asked Yuma to set aside some vegetables. Ikawa agreed and said chickens eat the vegetables, but his snakes, though reliable, are more troublesome. Shohei told Yuma that everyone has their own strengths. They ate the crayfish quickly, and as he was getting ready to go home, Rin and Ten cuddled up to him. They were probably trying to thank him that way, but he felt very scared. I can't remember who told the boy to come by any time. The hero wanted to know more about Rin and Ten, but enjoyed chatting about anything. After that, he and Ikawa began visiting each other often, and when the heat set in, the neighbor called him sounding very worried. Ikawa and Shohei met. The neighbor, soaked from the rain, apologized for calling so suddenly. Usually the neighbor asked him to leave the gate open, but this time the neighbor said he needed to close it. He asked what had happened. I tilted my head and said he looked a little ashamed. He asked his comrade to listen. Sho agreed. Sana thanked Rin for sharing the insects with her. The hero stepped into the house. The boy enjoyed the food Ikawa cooked. Ikawa said he got carried away and made too much and offered to let the hero take some. The boy thanked him. Ikawa sighed and said that in their country girls were often stalked, and the young man agreed. Suppose a man is being stalked by a woman. Shaw realized why the man had moved to the city. He could hardly imagine it. Ikawa said it was his co-worker, and she assumed they were dating without asking, had a duplicate key made, entered his house, and rummaged through his things. He told his boss about it. She became so angry that the boss had to call the police. As a result, she was fired. The whole story leaves an unpleasant aftertaste. A court order keeps her from approaching him, but he remains afraid. After earning money in stocks with a friend's help, he decided to buy this mountain. The protagonist thought this girl had come here. He answered no. He had seen her while shopping in a nearby city. Suspecting it was another girl, the man contacted a lawyer, who told him she had only recently moved to this prefecture. Fortunately, she hadn't gone to the village yet. Ikawa refused, but felt scared. Suddenly, he jumped up. vowed to help him with the mountain work for the rest of his life, and asked if the young man could go shopping with him. Sano agreed. He wondered whether to ask about Ren, whom he always takes with him. He answered that she always sits in the passenger seat. The man felt pity. Make it clear he fully understands the boy's fear, so he does not see him as pathetic. Smiling, the man said that before long he would fall in love with him. The hero tensed, but Akawa said he was joking, which eased him, and he thanked the guy. We also need to gather information about women, and he now has someone to go shopping with, so he does not mind because the other man said he would help on the mountain. Recalling his neighbors' situations, he realized how difficult relationships with people can be. Wrapping his arms around Pochi, Tama, and Yuma, he said he was very happy to have them, and then Tama suddenly started pecking him. The second time the chickens visited Rin and Ten, they asked about the crayfish. Yuma shook her head to refuse, and the snakes grew sad. The hero measures his chickens and finds they have reached 1 meter. He has no idea how it happened. The chickens immediately echoed him, asking how that could be. Yesterday they were about 70 centimeters, and he is with them every day, trying to convince himself that it's only his imagination, but now they have grown noticeably overnight, and he did not know what to do. Bowing his head, he asked if growing so fast had caused them any problems, and the chickens echoed him as they bowed, saying such rapid growth could make them sick. They repeated the phrase after him as they should. The hero thought from all signs that they were unhurt. He doubts vets understand chickens with lizard tails. It's really a dinosaur story. Birds descended from dinosaurs, and the evidence is feathered dinosaur fossils. He would not call it a lizard story. Opening Yuma's beak, he saw many sharp teeth and thought they were too scary for chickens. He wondered if anyone else had bought animals from that man back then. They all noticed the same thing, rapid growth to enormous sizes. The same was true for Tatsuki, Rin, and Ten. He wouldn't have paid so much attention to it if they hadn't all had such strange animals. Working in the garden, Shohei wiped the sweat from his face and thought fieldwork was a good way to distract himself. Grandfather called and asked the boy if he could come today. The boy said he would go shopping first. Grandfather invited him to lunch. The boy warned him right away that his chickens had grown again. After ending the call, the hero said he no longer feels like he planted many vegetables. Poki suddenly approached him with a rabbit in his mouth. Frightened, the boy called his grandfather and asked what to do with the rabbit. His grandfather told him to release it because rabbits are endangered in this region. The hero told the chickens he'd be back that evening and asked them to watch over everything here. That left the mountain to Pochi and Yuma, if you think about it. He can't imagine life without his chickens. Shohei has lived here for 3 months. The old man warned him the rainy season was coming and told him to prepare the house. He also had to watch the roads because they might wash away. Sho understood and thanked the old man for the advice. He forgot the rainy season was coming, and with the roads unpaved, heavy rain could turn them to mud and stop him from reaching the village. He asked what to do about the mountain roads. The old man said the first step was to find dangerous spots and remove trees that might fall and block the road. When a road is blocked or washed out, crews usually clear it with machinery in about 10 days as long as it does not rain. The village can order the equipment from a private company in the city, but it cannot afford it. The hero realized living in the mountains was harder than he expected. Shohei then asked if they knew anyone else buying chickens at the spring fair. The old man said he had never seen such large birds from anyone else. The woman didn't ask either, but she thought the poultry farm might have some since they dealt with chickens. He wondered if they could really be there, and the old man told him not to worry because they buy nothing here and import everything. The hero eyed Tama and assumed he was a foreign spy. The woman laughed at the man's words. Grandfather said birds bought at such stalls are usually raised for meat. He was lucky the male arrived with 2 females. Hens generally start laying at about 4 to 5 months old. That means his hens should begin laying around July. The old man asked if the guy had received any vaccinations. The guy thought for a moment and said he had a tetanus shot. The old man clarified he was asking about chickens. The hero was surprised to learn the hens needed vaccinations. The old man said they were essential if he wanted them to lay eggs. He realized the chickens needed to be vaccinated and hadn't thought about it. It left him unsure what to do or whether anyone would allow the birds to be vaccinated. He had been given the contact details of someone at a poultry farm he needs to talk to. The hero arrived at the poultry farm and said he was from Yamato. The chickens were ordinary, While there, he met the farm worker. The man asked if Sono was related to the old man, and Sono said he was only a friend of the family. Then Sono noticed the man's chicken. He observed that she didn't look like a giant chicken. There simply aren't any that big. It might be a wild chicken, but wild chickens aren't usually that white. Yamato asked if she was already an adult or still growing. He said she was still growing and fed on vipers. The man thought that might be why they were so big. Next, he asked what he feeds his chickens. The hero replied that he feeds them vegetable scraps. They entered the room, and she told the chicken she could eat something here. Yamato noted the chicken was smart and understood what he was saying. Sano gave Yamamoto's wife a gift, and Yamamoto himself says that the more he looks at her, the more she seems to him. Umoto asked whether the man had given them the vaccine, and the man said no. They were not sick yet, but he did not know when they would get sick. You don't have to get the vaccine directly because today it is often diluted in water or given as a spray. If they stay calm, giving an injection is best. The hero thinks Yuma would tolerate it, but Pochi and Tama would eat him alive. Because they are free-range, drinking water isn't suitable, so spraying is the only option. If he needs to be vaccinated, Matsuyama will help him. But it still costs money, and he does not want his chickens to get sick. Yamamoto told the man to inspect the chicken coop, but it needed to be disinfected first. Animal husbandry needs strict hygiene because you can bring many bacteria on yourself, so the hero should also be concerned about his chickens. Sano asked the man if he had heard about the colored chickens sold at the fair, and the man said he didn't see why anyone would buy them since they were no good for meat and only males were sold. The young man can't see why Tama and Yuma were there in the first place. When they parted, Yamato gave the boy the contact details of a veterinarian who could see him. Shui thinks Katsuragi might have the same problem with Tatsuki. If Ikewa or Rin get sick, you can't take him to the vet. He should thank Ikewa for keeping an eye on the mountain while he's driving around. Sono wrote to Aikawa asking for help preparing for landslides and erosion. Aikawa agreed, and Sono thought it would be useful to have a more experienced friend. Heading to his friend, the young man realized Ikawa had already taken care of everything. Arriving in 10, he greeted Rin, and Pochi ran toward them. Tin pressed the doorbell, and Ikawa said they were already on their way. Tin stepped outside and greeted his friend. Inside the house, the man treated the boy to fresh rice and green peas. Deciding to focus on landslide protection, he said he had looked at plastic fences. I found a suitable one you can easily install yourself. It will at least hold something. But the mountain still needs regular maintenance. The man reflected. He said he was just lucky, but since Rin in 10, he hadn't had any collapses. Last year, strong typhoons and heavy rain caused damage everywhere, and although many trees fell in the mountains, those areas did not get heavy rain and were lucky. He would have called it a coincidence if it had happened once, but it wasn't the first time. Evacuations were taking place everywhere, but nothing happened here. The hero thought the mountains could hold many dangers and problems. Aikawa isn't sure, but he credits Rin and 10. The hero scanned Ikawa's roads and made a list of what he needed to do. The rainy season was nearly here, so he had to hurry. At home, the man checks off all the points he noted while inspecting his neighbor. The items he orders online will be delivered to his grandfather, and Ikawa said he will pick them up. It would be nice if they were delivered to the mountains right away. He could go to the city and buy everything himself, but he can't bring himself to do it because he hasn't been able to let go of everything yet, and it still hurts. They looked great together. Everyone in their circle knew about the upcoming wedding, and it was clear to outsiders that they were going to get married. After they split up, he couldn't stand the looks people gave him. He loved her, and had already pictured a happy family in his head, and I couldn't see anything wrong with my fiancé deciding to study abroad right before the wedding. His world was limited, but she left and ended the marriage. The wedding had been planned, so he received money as compensation, which makes it unclear why she had supported his dreams and hopes in the first place. Because the company was small, he couldn't keep working there. With the money, he bought a mountain. It was all sad, he said. The chickens echoed his words. Silently, he thanked them for their understanding. Vinny hugged Yuma, then thanked his chickens. Lying in bed at night, the hero thinks the animals have grown a lot. He is glad he met his chickens. Katsuragi and Akawa both bear emotional wounds, and their pets help them. His scar is his alone, and he will not share it. And he is sure one day all their wounds will heal, and their hearts will beat as before. Mia messages Shohei to ask how he is since the rainy season is about to start. Recently, the hero went to Yamanaka to check on things, But there was no new information and no one had seen the former Katsuragi. Shohei could tell Yamanaka was very worried about Katsuragi, but he had nothing to say, so he just smiled stupidly. Shohei feels uncomfortable getting involved in this matter. If someone asks him for help, he'll help. But when other people ask him to help them, that's a different matter. Since her ex is dangerous, it's better to be prepared. By the time he arrived at Shohei Mountain, almost no one was left. 5 years had passed before he moved here, and he was surprised the house had been tidied. On the guy's mountain, there's a cemetery, and it looks like the people who used to live here are buried here. Relatives and family members always tell him when they plan to visit, but the hero still tends the graves because it's unclear when the deceased's relatives will actually be able to come, so he stays on the safe side. The chickens are also roaming around the cemetery. Shohei notices that they are especially energetic today. Their energy sometimes tires him. Then one of the chickens turns around and scares the boy. She has caught another viper, and this time she is allowed to eat it. As the chickens share their spoils, the hero gets a message. Mia wrote to him, thanking him for his support, saying she can live a normal life and asking if he would like to come over for dinner. She has grown a lot of peas, and the hero is not happy with the message. He says he'll come when it's convenient for her and asks what time would be best to arrive, while Shuai thinks the girl has no hidden motives and is simply lonely. He thinks this was probably just a polite invitation. Mia says the next day or the day after would suit her better. That surprises him. Calling the hens by name draws their attention, and frustrated, he says he doesn't understand girls at all and still can't tell when he should come, so Yuma runs to calm him down. The hero thinks they could bring him to tears. Yuma is straightforward and kind, while Pochi and Tama are much colder. It's natural they have different personalities, but sometimes he just wants to be surrounded by cute, fluffy creatures. You must support the hero. She gives him flowers from her garden. A few days later, Shohei leaves for Katsuragi and asks Pochi to watch the house. Pochi agrees resolutely, and at that moment the hero receives a message. He recognizes Aikawa. The neighbor says he brought some good liquor and offers to drink together and to stay the night. Realizing Aikawa is lonely, the hero decides not to stay late at Katsuragi's and, to be safe, suggests meeting tomorrow because he has things to do today, and the other man agrees. Mia is harvesting as the hero arrives. They greet each other and Sano offers to help. She gladly agrees to help. It seems she planted too much. As payment for the work, she offers to take part of the harvest for herself. The hero says he will be grateful. Shohei remembers Tatsuki and asks where he is. Mia replies that he's definitely in the shadow of the house, and she's sure. Shohei wants to say hello to him. They find Tatsuki at the designated spot. The hero greets him and asks if his chickens will peck insects. The dragon agrees. After thanking him, the boy tells Toma and Yuma to enjoy themselves, but suddenly becomes frightened when Toma climbs onto Tatsuki and starts pecking at Tatsuki's skin. Mia notices it too and assumes the chicken is picking insects from him, thinking it might be a type of symbiosis found in nature and other animals, and Shohei is surprised that Tatsuki is not offended by the comparison. She says she'll make tea now. The hero thanks her and puts the basket back. They sit on the veranda. Mia asks them to wait a second because she has prepared something, and Sano agrees while admiring the peaceful view. Tatsuki appears around the corner of the house. He asks Yuma if she wants to play with him. Refusing to move, the chicken stays nearby. After a while, Mia arrives and apologizes for the wait. Surprised, the hero receives the treat as the girl explains she cooked too much again and there's a lot left, and Shohei eats it happily, saying it's very tasty with a perfect balance of peas and rice. After that, the hero asks how Mia cares for the mountain, and Mia says she pays the village council and the villagers help her, which the man finds reasonable because it would be hard for a young woman to manage alone. When he asks if she is vaccinating Tatsuki, she realizes this is the first time she has heard of vaccinating large lizards. Sano agrees with her, saying only cats and dogs are vaccinated. Mia says she'll consider getting vaccinated just in case. Then the man asks how she's been doing lately. The girl says nothing has changed, and after hearing nothing from her ex since Golden Week, she has calmed down a bit. She apologizes for the inconvenience. Helping one another is normal, so Shohei does not find it hard. Then the girl gets his attention. Nia admits her words may sound bold, but she wants him to visit her from time to time because it would help her a lot. The hero does not understand what she means. He will come if she invites him. The girl thanks him for that. They fall silent and sip their tea. Sano is sure she is simply lonely like Ikawa and has no other hidden motives. The hero and the hens leave with plenty of food and the harvest, and she notices she gets carried away too often when she cooks, but everything was delicious. The next day he visits Ikawa, wondering about her relationship with Ren and what led her to make half her body human, but he's always too embarrassed to ask. Tama feels angry. The hero explains she is on guard duty again today, and they will go to Ikawa. He feels awkward leaving her here alone, so Sano asks if he will go with him. And Tama remains angry and does not react. Pochi pokes him in the leg. The man says he's still worried, but since Pochi insists, he won't be able to catch Toma anyway. Remembering the time he chased her and got kicked and bitten, he won't make the same mistake again. Shohei calls from the car that he has unlocked the house so she can sleep inside, and 2 buckets of crayfish wait in the back. Rin and Ten meet the hero. After greeting them, he says he's staying overnight and asks if his chickens may eat the insects. The snakes say they do not mind. Sano notes Rin does not like to talk much, while Tan does. The boy hands over the gifts. Rin and Ten tell him he's a good boy. The violent reaction scares Shohei. He explains out loud that his chickens caught it. Ikawa comes out and greets the hero. Sano tells him he has a taste for crayfish. The neighbor, amazed that there are so many again, takes the bucket, thanks Pochi and Yuma, and asks them to make themselves at home. The hero notices Ikawa treats his chickens with respect, and sometimes it feels like the chickens own him rather than the other way around, and they get more than he does. The heroes enter the house, and Shohei apologizes for not bringing anything else with him. They say there are enough crayfish, and he brought a whole bunch for the snakes. The hero wishes him a pleasant meal and asks whether he understood correctly that these are a no-key. Ikawa replies that he bought their seeds last year and grew them at home. Sano is greatly surprised. He didn't think it was possible, but his neighbor tries many things, and now he takes out the alcohol he bought. The hero asks whether this is Chinese liquor and whether the man drinks it often, but Ikawa denies that and says it was a gift from a friend who sold him the mountain, a souvenir from China, and Sano wonders what is written there. The neighbor says matter-of-factly that motai is a strong liquor and should be served on ice or diluted. Now the hero wonders which province it comes from. Ikawa does not know. Shohei remembers how his chickens got the gift. The heroes keep eating while Ikawa says it tastes great with fried chicken, and then catches Sano's eye. Realizing he acted without thinking, he asks for forgiveness. Shohei says it's fine. They recently visited a poultry farm where he bought a chicken to fry, and no one complained. Ikawa asks what the poultry farm was like. The hero says it's an authentic place. He says he decided it was worth vaccinating his chickens. The neighbor considers whether snakes are vaccinated, then looks at them and realizes that even if they are, vaccination would not suit them. Sano asks whether Rin has always looked like this. Ikawa says she took on this appearance about a year ago and hasn't changed since. The hero then asks whether it happened suddenly or was triggered by something. He pictures Yuma turning into a beautiful girl, but immediately rejects the idea. Ikawa also wondered what might have triggered it. He says that after about a year they grew to 2 meters long. Ten always stayed home, and Ren often went to the city with him. One day an incident occurred. While Ikawa was visiting the city, girls kept pestering him because he was handsome. He still hadn't shaken his fear, so he ran away quickly. The girls kept approaching, and when they saw Rin, they ran away screaming, which made the man even more frightened. Akua relaxed and hugged Rin on the way home until the shaking in his arms subsided. He admits he acted pathetically that day, complained to 10 people, and ran all night. Assumed that if a girl had been in the seat, no one would have bothered him. Wondered why he had complained at all. And then the next morning, nearby he found Rin transformed. Sangno asks if that was when Rin changed, and the neighbor says Rin went pale, wondered how a girl ended up at his house, and thought he might have brought her because he had been drinking a lot when he got home. Trying to run from her, the man saw her lower body and thought about it. Now everything is clear to the hero. He says that when he first saw her, he did not believe it right away. Ikawa said that when he saw Ten standing calmly beside him, he realized what was happening. Does Shohei think she seemed strange to him even at their first meeting? They keep eating as the hero realizes he has had enough to drink. At this point, Akawa wonders why Sano bought the mountain since he has not shared it yet. The hero says his situation is not as bad as Aikawa's, but his marriage was destroyed and he hated the whole world. The neighbor asks what was wrong. Shohei does not want to answer the question. He says they were engaged and had already set a wedding date. She suddenly said she wanted to study abroad. The hero asked whether she would return and suggested postponing the wedding. She said she would stay there for a few months, and the hero began to cry. The crying grows louder. Aikawa asks to be forgiven. Sano may not say anything. Through tears, she keeps saying she didn't come back because she wanted to attend a prestigious university, and asks him to pretend they never knew each other. Shohei can't tell what these tears mean, if he's sad, lonely, or just angry. He says his problem isn't as serious as stalking or domestic violence, yet it was unnecessary to say they would get married and that she loved him when she was going to leave anyway. Sano feels helpless. There's nothing he can do. She's his whole world, but she doesn't want him in hers. Aikawa places a glass of water in front of the surprised hero and says it's delicious. Sano wipes his tears and drinks, remembering that crying a lot causes dehydration. Bowing his head, the hero says he is truly sorry. Ikawa is surprised by the reaction. Not knowing what to say, he asks for his head to be raised, says he had been drinking heavily then, and asks Pochi to move away. Sano searches for more words and stays seated. The neighbor insists they're friends who help each other, so there's nothing wrong with telling him everything, especially since the hero already knows all about him, and he looks back at Ren as he says it. Pochi puts his paw on Shohei's head. Shohei lifts the paw, and Pochi asks to be forgiven again, looking so pathetic. Aikawa insists he has nothing to apologize for, that he did nothing wrong and everything is fine, so do not thank him for those words. The neighbor keeps teasing that the hero will definitely fall in love with Shohei, which scares the hero and makes him ask the neighbor not to. Then Aikawa laughs and says he was joking and only wanted to cheer him up, so the hero thanks him again and yells at Pochi to get off him. Yuma and Pochi start arguing, and the hero realizes even Yuma thinks stepping on his head is wrong. Then he gets a call. Realizing it's Matsuyama, the man answers the phone, asks to confirm that the vet will come the day after tomorrow, says you'll stop by then, thanks him, and apologizes for disturbing him. Looking at Yuma, he wonders if reptiles are vaccinated. Tutsuki has thick skin and is almost 2 meters tall, and he considers how to vaccinate a giant snake with a girl's body. He worries they'll end up on TV with their monsters or that his chickens will be interviewed, and can already picture the headline about fantasy versus reality, and them inviting a real Lamian on air. The hero studies the chickens, and knows they will not surrender quietly to the reporters. He remembers he still needs to give Matsuyama something else. Sano asks Ikawa for advice, and Ikawa suggests giving fruit, which might not be the ideal gift for a man but would help his family, so the heroes go shopping the next day. Shohei tells Ikawa he always comes up with good ideas. The neighbor says living in the mountains means there's always something to do, but also a lot of solitude, so he often ends up alone with his thoughts. The hero struggles to be alone with his thoughts. Returning to the cars, Sano notices something. Rin and Yume are talking. Aikawa notices the girls getting along, and the hero agrees that friends are great. He gives his neighbor a gift and thanks him for his steady help. Aikawa thanks him in return. He says he should not have given him anything, but Rin likes them. Sano thinks all girls like sweets. Sweet tastes delicious. Unsure if his chickens can taste it, he once fed them cherries and carefully removed the pits after reading they harm chickens. Joey tells the chickens not to eat the bones, but they start shooting them at him. Today he will visit the poultry farm. Since he didn't properly check his chickens before vaccination, the priority now is to meet the veterinarian and then decide. As the hero prepared his truck, Pochi bolted into the dense bushes. Sano kept quiet about the vaccinations, assuming it was an animal instinct. Calling the chicken to come back quickly, he gets no response from Pochi. Turning to Tama and Yuma, he says, "There's nothing to be done." They agree. Their reaction surprises him, and he wonders whether any of them actually answered him just now. Sano accepts that he must give up this time. Calling to Pochi, he promises he'll go next time and asks him to look after the house. He hopes he can find another way then. At the poultry farm, the hero greets Matsuyama's wife, and she greets him back. Sano hands her a souvenir. She smiles and says it was unnecessary, though she is very pleased, and the hero silently thanks Ikawa. Men approach him, the hero greets them and thanks them for their help, and they say, no thanks are needed. The vet looks at the chickens, surprised by how large they are. Matsuyama introduces the man and the hero to each other. The vet is named Kimoto and says he's pleased to meet them, adding that he's a veterinarian from S City. Suna says the feeling is mutual. He remembers being told about 3 chickens. Shohei apologizes, saying one of them got away and he couldn't catch it. Komodo asks whether they are free-ranging and says it's not a big deal. He asks Matsuyama whether he has the tools to measure them and whether they mind, and Matsuyama replies that he does. The vet says the hens are larger than Brahmas, measuring 113.3 centimeters and weighing about 7.82 kilograms. They are quite heavy. He asks about the tail, saying it looks more like a reptile's, and asks to open its mouth, noting he has never seen anything like it. Komodo finishes inspecting and says they're good girls. Sano thinks they've grown up again. The vet says they look more like feathered dinosaurs, and he can vaccinate them like chickens, but only if the hero accepts responsibility. Sano says he heard you can skip vaccination and just add the drug to the water. Kimoto replies that it's possible, relatively safe, and simple. Even that vaccination can make things worse if they are not chickens, and then it may not be necessary. The hero agrees with him. He tells the men he will think it over. The man thinks his chicks understand what people say. Avoiding the vaccine entirely would make him very happy, so for now he arranged for Dr. Komodo to monitor his chickens. Sano remembers preparing a chicken dish that day. Tama and Yuma watched him, but he ignored them because he could not resist the delicious chicken. The rainy season was about to arrive on the mountain. Preparing for the rainy season, he bought a dehumidifier for the house, asked Ikawa how people had dealt with humidity before, and Ikawa said they used charcoal. It looks like he's making charcoal for his stove, and he certainly has plenty of materials for it. Sano had a coal stove at home too. She was in terrible shape. Fortunately, Yamato volunteered to help. The hero shared the finished coal with his family and neighbors. Shohei asked Ikawa what else he could do to reduce the humidity in the house, and Ikawa said cutting down the trees and mowing the grass around the house would help, which made the hero go pale. Learning that white clover could be fed to chickens, he planted it around the house. Clover needs almost no care. It grows quickly and without problems. You only need to plant it. A man planted clover near his house to enjoy the view and to have his house surrounded by flowers like in a fairy tale. The chickens eat and say it's delicious. Sano says Tama and Yuma were also happy because food growing near the threshold is very convenient. Shohei remembered them pecking at him and disrupting his work. He said he was planting for them and asked them not to interfere. At the end of April, the chicken left happily, and the hero asked her to warn the others not to pick the grass here for about a week. When Sano entered the shop, the children gave him a flower crown, or rather put it on his chicken. Now he is looking at it. Finding it so cute, he made wreaths for the others. But when Tama and Pochi looked at him with such disdain, he stopped at Yuma. He realizes it's not working out and it's harder than he expected. The hero places a wreath on Yuma and asks for her forgiveness for what went wrong. Yuma repeats the word, forgive. Sunal still finds it cute and says so out loud, calling her cute, and when Yuma asks again, the hero confirms it. A cheerful hen runs off, shouting that she's cute. The hero silently asks her to stay that way, because she is the best. Clover is a useful plant, but if it brings moisture into the wooden chicken coop, it can cause mold, so it will have to be moved farther away, which is sad since it is the chicken's food. Get everything done before the rain comes. While Pochi and Tama were on patrol, he dug everything up and replanted it. When they returned, they asked where the grass was, so no one realizes he now needs to reach an agreement with Tama. He asks for forgiveness and explains the grass could not be planted by the house, so he moved it a little farther away so it could be seen. Toma keeps shouting about grass. The hero repeats that clover cannot be planted near the house, and the chicken shouts even louder. Sano protests that this is wrong, but an angry Tama attacks him. The hero cries out in pain. The man shouts that clover causes mold in the house, so it is not allowed. After she pecked him and he ran away, his muscles ached the next day. Tama noticed this and began pecking him even more often. A real devil. Pochi was calmly pecking at the clover the whole time and didn't care where it grew. That was how it happened. Before the first rain, the hero got rid of all the grass, and now he thinks the humidity problem is solved. He still couldn't bring himself to throw it away, so he transplanted some into a flower bed. The most important thing is to teach the chickens not to peck at the flower bed. One day the chicken came across another snake. Because it was raining, there was nothing to do outside, so he only walked a little in the field and mostly felt like a hermit. The chickens patrolled in the light rain while he walked with them. The hero noticed the water level had risen and that it grew dirtier downstream. It's probably because the rain is washing away the dirt. When it rains, mold can form quickly, so check your house every day, especially the toilet and bathroom where it appears fastest. In the traditional Japanese-style room, Sano set the dehumidifier to full power and feels like a total recluse. Opening the refrigerator, he found the meat was gone. Remembering that in exchange for coal, he received a lot of vegetables, he tells Yuma his body needs meat, and he doesn't even have any eggs. It's likely too early for them to lay eggs because the eggs could still be fertilized, and he doesn't want to eat fertilized eggs. The hero realizes he needs to go shopping, and Yum follows him. He now remembers snakes. Maybe because of the rain, they started appearing more often. In addition, Pochi caught not only vipers, but also a tiger snake. When he let him eat it, he ate it with joy. Tiger snakes are venomous, so he didn't even think about whether he'd be okay, and by the time he realized, it was too late. Noah watched him in case he suddenly got sick, but he felt fine, like a chicken terminator. The hero called Umoto and said he had gathered some vipers. The man asked him to bring them since his things had just arrived. The guy thanked him and agreed. Then the man remembered something. He says he has a question about Sano's chickens and asks them to bring at least one. Shohei asks what the question is. Your motor replies that they will talk when the hero arrives. It is not a scary conversation, so there is no need to worry. The hero says if anyone wants to show them on TV, he will refuse immediately. If the man really wanted that, he would laugh and would not ask to bring only one. He asks for the person who understands speech well, so no one agrees. Washing the chickens, the hero says the old man wanted to talk to them about something. Pochi replies that the man thought he already knew, and that his dependable Pochi will definitely respond. Turning to Tama, he finds her looking away. Sano decides Tama will watch the house. The hero wonders aloud what Yamoto wanted to talk about, but he can't figure it out. Pochi gives him a look that says he's a fool for not asking what the man wanted to say. Arriving in the village, Sono greets Yamoto's wife. She is pleased that Pochi and Yuma have come too. The boy is surprised they are so quiet around Granny. She chose his things, and the hero thanked her and gave her some fruit as a gift. She asks whether he really plans to ruin her figure with sweets. The man chuckles and says they are meant to thank those who took care of him, and he thinks I call or really know my way around gifts. She says it wasn't worth it and asks Pochi and Yume if they want something sweet. Umoto is glad the hero brought so many snakes, wonders if his mountain has become a breeding ground for vipers, and thanks his chickens. Sano replies the snakes will most likely not show up again. The man takes the bottles with a smile and says at this rate the vipers will not come out for 6 months. The hero assumes Yamato likely already has a lot of snake shake and fears what a year from now will bring. The man offers him a taste of his work, but the hero refuses because he still has to get home. On parts of the mountain road there are only low curbs. If the wheel wobbles, you could be thrown off. Yamato agrees that if anything happens to Sano, he will not even leave any children behind. The hero reminds Yamato that the man wanted to talk and remembers the purpose of the meeting. Most people in this mountain village work in the rice fields, so they live near various wild animals, and this year there are more tiger snakes than usual. Although they rarely bite people, their venom is stronger than a viper's. Yamato says 2 people have already been bitten and 1 was hospitalized, so anyone working in the fields is at risk. Shohei says it's terrible. Pochi caught one the other day, he remembers. He's pleased the guy's chickens are catching them. He says he normally wouldn't worry, but people are spotting tiger snakes almost every day now, so they need the chickens' help. More snakes mean fewer frogs, and if frogs decline, that causes a problem because the hero knows which one. So Noah assumes there will be more insects, and that is the correct answer. This will disturb the ecosystem's balance. Make clear he realizes the meeting's purpose. Umoto asks Pochi and Yuma to find red snakes with black spots. Those are tiger snakes, and the village has a problem with them. Pocky answers. The man says he understands and that they will help them a lot if they can catch the snakes. Pochi starts stomping militantly. The hero stops him and shouts that this should not be done today, and that they will come for it another day. Yumoto notices that Sano has very warlike chickens. The old man will call Shohei when he needs help. Pachi was supposed to start today, but the man stopped him, so on the way back he kept pecking at his owner. Yuma didn't think about helping at that moment. You must have warned the chickens about snakes. They recognized the viper and the tiger snake, but did not recognize the name of the third species. At home, Sono calls Ikawa to tell him about the snakes, and that the villagers asked his chickens to go hunting. The hero asks the man whether he knows why so many snakes have appeared. The neighbor is surprised the man did not watch the news about snakes and other pests. Beyond the mountains, a town had a large house whose owner had been an exterminator, and apparently died last year. Later it became clear he kept snakes as a hobby, many of them poisonous, and his sons did not know what to do, so they released them into the mountains. The late owner must be turning in his grave at how foolish his sons have been. They could have warned the pet shop owner, but it was too late. The sons said they did not know the snakes were poisonous. Sano realizes that's the reason there are so many snakes. Ikawa says that's entirely possible. The news did not say exactly where they released the snakes. The man is certain this is caused by an increase in tiger snakes because the deceased owner kept many of them. Now the hero knows exactly why this area has so many snakes. He asks whether the villagers know about it. I call it a doubt set because the incident did not attract much attention. It was mentioned in the news only once, so people would notice it only by chance and mostly ignored it, which was unexpected. Esoset says Rin just caught a habu, and the hero shouts to confirm he heard correctly. Sano remembers the poisonous snake lives only in Okinawa and definitely should not be here. Horrified, Sano says Aikawa is definitely not mistaken. Aikawa says that fortunately, Ren and Tan are catching up, so he does not think the habu will head to the village, and the hero thanks him and promises to tell Yamoto. First, the boy asks the old man if he saw the news, and the old man says he saw nothing. The man says it's fine if there are only tiger snakes, but habu is very dangerous. When possible, he asks for chickens to be brought. The hero agrees. Umoto says that if it really is the real hubk, he would like to take a look at it if it is not too much trouble. Sano promises to pass the request to Ikawa. The hero was so massive he didn't even know this was possible. Yuma steps in to calm him, and the man believes animal therapy works. The man says out loud that Yuma is a good boy and they hug. Sano thanks her and she repeats his words, making him laugh because he should be the one speaking. Mia is very frightened by the habu's presence. The hero replies that the snake came from the west. He knows Tetsuki would have handled it easily, but he should have at least warned him. Strange noises come from the phone while the hero calls the girl. Yuma grabs his phone and the man runs after her. He shouts that she could break the screen, then asks why she did it. Sano checks the screen and says you can't carry a smartphone like that. The chicken ignores him and asks for a hug. Though still angry, the hero softens and quietly asks her not to do it again. Shohei pets Yuma, tells her he will call Katsuragi again and asks her not to interfere, apologizes for the dropped connection, and Mia asks him to forgive her for causing the panic. She says he was screaming so loudly she couldn't understand what he was saying, and Sino looks at the person responsible. The girl asks whether it's true that someone released the hub. The man tries to calm her, saying they might not be on her mountain and reminding her they were seen in the west. Mia replies in a trembling voice that she hopes so. The hero asks whether Tatsuki will recognize a snake from her description. He says Yamoto will take the habu to his home tomorrow and asks if she can come and take a look, and she agrees. Aikawa asks if he understood correctly that they should show the habu to the large lizard Katsuragi, and says he will go with Rin while asking the hero to tell others that she is his jealous girlfriend who does not allow him to get close to other women. It's not entirely fair to Katsuragi, but he understands that after the Stalker incident, Aikawa fears girls, immediately said he does not want to communicate with them and relies on Rin for protection. Shohei then calls Yamoto to warn that Katsuragi will stop by to take a look, and Yamoto agrees. He asks how a caretaker could catch a snake like that. The hero says it was caught by a large snake he keeps at home, and Yamoto now understands everything, realizes Aikawa has a pet too, and asks to bring it. Sunol looks around and says he doesn't think it will work, because it's about 3 meters long. The man says he'll come by himself. The hero says he'll pass it on and asks that they discuss it tomorrow. Ikawa asks if they're talking about his mountain. Shohei says the man really wanted to see number 10. The man can refuse, they will discuss everything tomorrow anyway. The neighbor thanks him for the warning. They hear that he has been on the phone all day. Many years later, a knock came at the door. He turns around, wondering if Tima has returned from patrol. Sano asks to be forgiven and says he will open the door now, and if she continues, he will break it. Pochi and Yuma say he will break it. Tama stayed alert while on patrol. The hero then closed the door. The next day arrives. Confident his chickens are obedient because they always see him off, he wonders whether Thomas would be very offended if he put a tracking device on her. Driving up to the house, he says hello, and Yamoto's wife replies, telling him he's just in time. She asks him to help her gather wormwood. Sano agrees. She thanks him because she heard there are many poisonous snakes and says she is scared, and he agrees. If they had his chickens, there would be no problems. They catch snakes and chase away pests. Ordinary chickens do not hunt wild boars. Ikawa arrives. A woman welcomes him and says he looks just as she imagined. The hero returns the greeting. The neighbor asks whether he understood that they are collecting firewood. They tell him they wanted to make tempura from it. It starts to rain, Sono notices, and says she will get wet. Yamoto's wife replies that everything is fine and they will go into the house now. Ikawa starts unloading what he brought. The hero notices Rin and greets her, and she returns the greeting. Watching her, he notices her curls gently stirred by the breeze from the slightly open window, and he thinks few can match her beauty. If her voice were calmer, she would seem even more perfect, and you might start pecking at him, leaving him puzzled. Ikawa shows the habu, and Sane notices how big it is, and the neighbor says that it's about 2 meters long, that Rin brought it to him, and that he didn't even know where or how to keep it. The woman says she would not want to find such a horror in her home. Yamoto enters and thanks them for coming. Ikawa returns the greeting. I ask the hero if I should get him a drink. The hero agrees. The man spots a snake and says it is huge. Ikawa begins to feel unwell. Sono tries to calm him down. Mia enters and apologizes for being late, but becomes very scared when she sees Ikawa. The hero looks at him, notes he is taller, and wonders why he is hiding like that. Shohei introduces them to each other. They say they are glad to meet each other. Patsuki gets out of the car, the hero greets him too, and the lizard notices Rin. Sano scans the pets and thinks it's just a gathering of monsters, though it may be too early to tell, and he feels uneasy. The heroes take their seats at the table. Shomi notices, saying that bamboo shoots are still being collected. An oppressive mood fills the room. Sano knows that Katsuragi fears only her boyfriend because she suffered domestic violence, while Ikawa fears all women because of a stalker. Yamoto tells Ikawa he definitely brought the habu, and Mia is terrified. According to the man, his father spared them for that reason so they would return like this. He asks to keep it as evidence, and Ikawa agrees but finds it hard to believe someone would keep such a snake as a pet in their home. Umoto says you need permission to keep poisonous snakes. The previous owner probably just took it for himself while he was working. The men are shocked by that stupid decision. He may have kept other poisonous snakes. The news said they planned to catch them. By the time the police act, it could be too late, so for now they are on their own. They will figure it out eventually. Umoto thanks Pochi, who has already started working and has caught a tiger snake. The man's wife praises the chicken as clever because it did catch the snake. But the snake is too large to fit in the bottle. She opts for tempura. The hero is unnerved by her determination. Chickens come up with a clever way to catch snakes. Ikawa, thanks for the meal. It was all very tasty. Unable to keep his girlfriend waiting, he asks her to grab a quick snack. Realizing his girlfriend is still in the car, the woman decides she needs to give her something, hands him a gift, and asks him to invite her to the house next time. He thanks her and promises to give it to her. Umoto asks Ikawa to bring the snake he keeps next time. The man says, 10 is not always at home, so he may not be able to bring him. His companion is surprised that the snake roams freely. Ikawa reassures him that 10 is not free-ranging and was simply given a large area on the property. He promises to bring it next time if they agree on a meeting in advance. Yamato hopes they'll meet after the rainy season. The hero will come and bring crayfish whether Shohei comes or not, and everyone agrees. The man asks to be told if anything happens to Aikawa. The other man agrees and says he can be contacted through Sano if the man wants to come by. Yamato happily agrees. The hero notices Ren's gaze. Waving at her, he gets a wave back. Mia comes out of the house and they leave. Sano asks if Katsuragi is going home. The embarrassed girl says it's about time, and adds that it turns out Ikawa has a girlfriend. Shohei confirms this and was the passenger. Based on her past experience, Mia says they should spend less time with Ikawa. She believes he clearly did not like her. Mia thanks the hero for today and says goodbye to him. Sano brushes it off, saying he prefers being an ordinary person who is not examined so closely, and the girl leaves. After hugging Yuma and thanking her for everything, the hero notices Pochi is taking things seriously. Now she runs out with a new snake. Grandpa didn't care, happy as a child, while Sono had to catch Pochi, so he pecked him many times, and Pochi now smelled of snakes from a mile away, which made being hit doubly offensive. Yamato says they'll meet tonight. He promises to prove he caught Pochi, and then they'll decide. Shohei yells at Pochi to stop. They are going home. Only a quick wash is needed. Once they get into the car, the hero notices Pochi's beak stinks. Pochi starts swearing in response. He thinks he should have rinsed his mouth too. The chicken didn't peck him on the way, but when he stepped out of the car, Pochi attacked him. The rain raised the house's humidity, so he'll need to make charcoal. Umoto calls again and asks to borrow 2 chickens for tomorrow. Wanting to discuss something else, he asks them to come right away. The hero agrees, turns to Yuma, and asks her to call Pochi and Tama and tell them they are going to the old man. Packing for the trip, Sano looks at the chickens and realizes the 3 of them no longer fit in the passenger seat, so one will have to ride in the back. He pulls a tarpaulin over everything as the chickens climb into the back together. The hero says one person can ride in the passenger seat, but is immediately struck on the head by a beak, and the man does not understand why. Yumoto thanks the hero for coming. Pochi taps his paw, and the man tells him he does not have to go hunting today and they can start tomorrow. Sano asks if he should sit in the garden, but Pochi attacks him again. Yamato laughs and tells Shohei that Pochi is clearly angry with him. The heroes enter the room. A serious-faced man says he showed the villagers the captured tiger snake Pochi, and another man listens attentively. Umoto says that after they left yesterday, he saw 2 more, and believes there are probably more than they expected. And Sano, surprised by the number, asks whether they were caught. The man says no, the snakes were in the grass. They must have mated last spring. That explains why there were so many of them, and they didn't even know about it. The hero interrupts and says the old man from the news died after spring. Yamato replies that most likely his son released the snakes while the man was still in the hospital. It became known that he would not survive. Shohei calls it a terrible story. The man agrees and suggests getting back to their topic. Tiger snakes usually mate before winter hibernation and give birth in summer. Sometimes they mate after hibernation. The hero realizes they are doing this now, and Umoto confirms that more snakes will mean more problems. Bowing, the man explains they need Sano's 2 chickens and asks to let them stay for a while, offering to pay. The hero says he doesn't need money. Umoto interrupts him and says that won't do. He asks you not to say that the hero must realize how vital his chickens are to his mountain life, and that 2 of them will no longer be at his home. This means the hero or his grief could be harmed, so he is paid for any possible trouble. The man asks that it be taken seriously, and Sano reluctantly agrees. Umoto tells Pochi that Saturday and Sunday are their days off, so they should start tomorrow. The chicken agrees. The hero thinks Tama and Pochi will start working tomorrow. Seinu tells the chickens who can be touched and who cannot. Yamato asked the guy to pick them up for the weekend, then called Pochi and Tama and promised he'd explain everything later so there were no shouts about him going home. The man turns, says goodbye, and tells him to call if he needs anything. The chickens leave with him. Shohei gets angry and thinks they can take the chickens, since they're not needed at home anyway. On his way, he stops at a store and the staff thank him for his purchase. He tells them he bought some tofu to fry at home. Serve it with vegetables, but make sure the chicken likes it too, and it's a healthy product that pairs well with oatmeal cookies. The hero comes home and tells Yuma, who runs to meet him. Sano shows her a bag and says he bought some treats. Yuma happily calls out that he has arrived. Her tail thrashes wildly as Shohei strokes her head, and he thinks that when she's happy, her tail becomes a deadly weapon. He remembers the hens wagging their tails when they brought down the boar during the Golden Week, and he has come to terms with how quickly they grew when they were small. The hero surveys the garden, thinking that in the rainy season plants grow fast and chickens keep the weeds down. But with the chickens gone for a while, he hopes the weeds will not have time to grow too much. That day they went to the river with Yuma, then rested at home. That evening he remembers and tells her that today Pochi and Tama will not be there. They started bathing, so don't use things that could grow too large to fit in one bathtub, or that would require buying extra towels. He notices it is very quiet, and lying in bed he counts on his fingers that today is Wednesday, that he must go for them on Saturday, and that until then he will be only with Yuma. Sano thought she would be lonely. Having all three of them around had become like family, and he did not want to leave them there, but he could not say that directly. A man asks Yuma to sleep with him. He falls asleep thinking he must be pathetic right now. Umoto approaches the hero and asks forgiveness for arriving so suddenly. Sano says it's nothing, asks if anything serious happened, and offers to go into the house. Umoto refuses, saying he already has to go. He tells them they can't sleep because Pochi and Tama screamed terribly last night, which surprises him and reminds him he heard chickens scream loudly when they wake in the night. After not hearing them for so long, he has forgotten what it's like. And Yamato says he doesn't care, but the neighbors are already complaining. A man came asking to leave them with the hero for the night, and whether Shohei objected. Shohei says he is not opposed, and confirms he understood they will meet in the morning. The man agrees and asks to be forgiven for making the request. Sano says it's fine. Umoto leaves and promises to give the hero some gas money. The boy tries to refuse, but the man says he will not accept excuses, and insists the boy should at least get something for helping. Shohei reluctantly agrees, thinking the old man is very polite. Turning to the chickens, he asks Pochi and Tam to return before dark, and they call back as they run. Expecting to be exhausted after a poor night's sleep, the hero was surprisingly full of energy. Yamato returned, having forgotten to give the hero the package of homemade cucumbers. The hero took it and thanked him. He asks again whether the man will arrive around 8 in the morning. The man confirms this and apologizes again for the inconvenience. Sano says he doesn't mind. Smiling, the hero watches the car drive away, thinking nothing terrible will happen and that he probably just had a nightmare before he fell asleep. Late at night, Pochi and Thomas start screaming and the hero yells back at them to be quiet. The man promises to leave the door open so they can calmly go back into the house after they're done yelling. Late at night, the chicken's cries even frighten the owl. In the morning, Sano finds Pochi and Thomas asleep by the door, thinks they must have been running around all night, and calls the chickens by name, suggesting they be washed first. He expected them to start shaking themselves off violently. It was good he hadn't had time to change his clothes yet. After breakfast, they will go to the village, and Sano says he wants to sleep. Yuma wants something from the hero. He assumes she wants him to go in person. The man thinks he cannot resist that look. He wants to ask his uncle how Pochi and Tama are doing there. They drive in the rain. Shohei remembers that he drove the chickens outside last night when it seemed to be raining, and now he realizes he shouldn't have done that. Yamato steps out to greet them, thanks them for coming, and asks how Pochi and Tama have been spending the past 2 days. The man says he thinks that the day before yesterday they were in the rice fields, where they hunted small snakes and even found a nest. The man is shocked by how short the time was and can't believe the whole field was cleared in just 2 days. Yamato asks what the problem is. The hero turns to the chickens and admits he does not know what to say. Their rice fields cover vast areas. Even with few farmers, they usually plant at least 2,000 tsubo. 1 tsubo is about 3.3 square kilometers. Sano says the chickens probably ran around only one of the 2 mountains. But even so, 1 mountain is about 30,000 tsubo. The boy told the man that chickens run a long way during the day, so that should be enough for them. For that reason, he says they should expand their scope of work. For example, let them inspect 5 houses instead of 1, or let them inspect more than just their mountain. Yamamoto's screams make sense now, and this is how the chickens release their excess energy. First, discuss this with the neighbors, he says, and check back in a couple of days since this cannot be implemented right away. Seno says it's nothing and admits it's his own fault for suggesting it so suddenly, and afterwards, Uncle takes Pochi and Tama to the farm where work is already waiting for them. Umoto's wife apologizes for placing a burden on the hero, and the man says it's nothing and that he should have thought of it sooner, leaving the woman surprised at how serious he has become. Then the hero and you can leave. Shohei worries about her because she is with him. She cannot afford to waste energy. He tells her she does not have to stay with him all the time and suggests she play with the other chickens. After he said that, she sent him packing. That evening, as planned, Pochi and Tamu were brought to Sano. He was glad they would go deeper into the mountains the next day, but he couldn't sleep again that night. It began to rain again outside, so he couldn't get them out. The boy listened to their screams all night, and it was painful. That morning, Pochi and Tama step out into the street, screaming happily, and Sano thinks they've been screaming all night. Since they'll be running around the mountains all day, they need to be well fed. He's curious where the chickens get all their strength. It's raining again today. The man hopes nothing will happen to them. The chickens keep running and screaming. Sano notices that the rains have left a lot of standing water here, which could lead to mold if not dealt with, and the hero still has many other things to do. He harvests the crop, tastes it, and notes that it is flavorful and juicy. The hero offers it to Yuma, who gladly accepts and opens her mouth to reveal a full set of teeth. Sano can think of nothing but whether she will bite his finger off while she is there, and he hopes it will not happen. By day, Puchatama roam the mountains and are almost never at home, yet simply knowing they are nearby brings relief. They're climbing to the top now. Shohei trusts Yuma to protect him if anything happens, so there's no point in worrying. He understands that. The hero asks whether she really grew up that way to protect him. He can't deny that all this feels as strange to him as Rin's story from the Ikawa family. The stranger it gets, the calmer he feels. They skip stretching and take a deep breath. Having finished all their work for the day, they can take a nap after lunch. The hero notices Yuma still needs to adjust to her larger size. By nightfall, Pochi and Tama, who had run all day, came home dirty, and because they had run through the mountains, he was finally able to get some sleep that day. The chickens are growing. Sunday morning arrives and the hero sees it will be sunny, so he tells the chickens the forecast shows no rain, but stops mid-sentence when he catches Pochi's gaze. That look makes him uneasy, and he has a strange feeling. Pochi and Tama went into town as usual, while Yuma wandered around, constantly changing size. No one thinks she was trying to use up her excess energy. In any case, it shouldn't be enough. No rain is expected today, so Sano decides to visit the cemetery. If he does not take care of it, the ancestors will be furious. That is why he lives on this mountain. Shohei apologizes for not visiting in a while. The hero finishes cleaning, sits on the grass, and realizes it's been a while since he was last here. He remembers that during Obona, the cemetery is usually crowded, and even by the end of the holiday he rarely sees his relatives, which is a pity. Taking the chickens to the city would leave the family stunned. The questions would probably never end. Even by train, the trip takes 3 hours. There's no real choice, and he doesn't want to spend all that time in a car. Tama repeats the last word he heard, which greatly surprises Sano. He cannot believe that what he just said about Rin's chatter could be true. He asks Toma to say whether he can speak. The chicken repeats the word. Shohei is happy he can actually speak, and wonders what is wrong with his voice. He runs to hug her with joy. Instead, he pushes him away and starts pecking, and Sano screams that it hurts and asks for forgiveness, wondering if she thought he was being mean while the hero only wanted to hug her. As evening falls, Shohei suggests going home. Then his uncle calls, so Shohei answers and asks what happened. Umoto says it's nothing, that he talked with the neighbors, and they agreed to let the chickens roam a large area, and he promises to give the details tomorrow, so the other person thanks him and says goodbye. Believing this is for the best, he thinks they will have somewhere to put their energy. Then Ikawa sends a message saying he will go to the city tomorrow and asks if the hero will come along, and the hero agrees. Don't expect it to be sunny tomorrow. Old man Umoto greeted Shohei and apologized for keeping him busy at work. The hero stepped out of the car and said his chickens had to be moved anyway, so the work wasn't scary. The man added they were more than just chickens. The young man thinks Pochi and Tama are going hunting this time. Today they are checking every section of the crop fields. Umoto says their eggs are delicious. The man realized they were snake eggs. The old man never expected it to taste so good. You can't tell just by looking, so he thinks they won't be able to start selling them. The hero concluded the grandfather wanted to limit the number of snakes, and he agreed, adding that they should not be wiped out. He explained their next steps. First, they had to catch them, then decide whether to release them. Shaw was surprised at how well the old man had thought it through. Grandpa also suggested taking a tiger snake because it is not poisonous and eats all kinds of rodents, so let it live. He won't allow poisonous snakes to reproduce. The young man thinks they cannot coexist with snakes, and that this is only for people's convenience, but people have power over all circumstances. Shohei said it was time to go, and that he'd definitely get in touch if he was delayed. The old man told him to call if anything happened. The boy ordered Tama and Pochi to obey their uncle, but they turned away and did not listen, leaving him outraged. Laughing, the man noticed the chicken's affection for him. The hero believes the chickens have no respect for him. Yuma slept on the car seat next to her, leaning against the guy. He hugged her and said she was so sweet. He patted her on the head and thanked her. He felt fine now. He texted someone to say he was on his way. He took one last look at the chickens, wondered if he was the boss here, and looked like he was about to cry. Pochi and Tama set out to destroy the eggs. Finding them, Tama wanted to eat them. Remembering the old man, he decided to bring them to him. The hero waited as Ikawa and Rin arrived and apologized for the delay. They traveled to the city. Getting out of the car, the man told Yuma to be a good girl and sit quietly. He couldn't take such a big chicken anywhere, just as Ikawa couldn't take Rin with him. Noticing a bag in his neighbor's hands, the hero asked what it was. He said they were work clothes. He planned to take them to the laundry. Washing them at home wouldn't remove the smell. The hero was surprised the laundry left the clothes with no smell. Ikawa said they wash at very high temperatures to kill the odor. The young man realized he didn't need air conditioning but hot water. Do not use bleach because it can harm the chickens. Hot water should be fine. Shohei left the store carrying full bags. He thought about how well their shopping had gone. He then noticed Ikawa sitting in the car and was surprised that Ikawa had been waiting for him the whole time. A man lay on Rin's shoulder with his face hidden. The hero stepped forward and apologized for the wait. At first, Ika simply said the word there. Shohei didn't understand what Ika was talking about. The man then said she was there, meaning the girl who had been stalking him, and the young man was surprised. The neighbor realized this was Akawa's former stalker and thought his guess might be right. He recognized her by her face and posture. Shohei said that even if it seemed that way, he understood his fear and suggested they go home. But Ikawa asked him to check who was standing there. The hero agreed and thinks the man should talk to a lawyer about the stalking, but he also understands why Ikawa wants him to approach the girl. Rin pulls Daikawa close to her. She said he didn't look like himself. Shu agreed with her. Ikawa was behaving strangely, so they had to be careful. Rin suggested they just call. The man looked away and breathed out. He thanked Rin and said he was going to the store with Seno. Rin told him to come back right away. The girl turned to the hero and said she relied on him. Stroking his head, he said he would come now, believing it was all over and that they would return to the mountains where Ikawa would make a call. They left the store and were met by a man and a woman. The woman bowed and introduced herself as Kano Yuko. Shock crossed Ikawa's face. The girl introduced herself as Kano Yuko and said she was pleased to meet her. Shaking, Ikawa stood until someone touched his shoulder, and he came to and asked the girl to remind him who they were. Kano replied that she was Senku's older sister, Ito Senkuhu, and offered her deepest apologies. The heroes went into a cafe, and the woman asked who was with Mr. Ikawa. He said it was his friend. After that incident, he found it hard to talk to girls her age, so he accompanied him. They bowed their heads and said they were very sorry. The man beside Kano is her older brother. Silence settled between them. Here's the situation. Around the end of last month, that same girl got married, and she planned to find Ikawa at the wedding to apologize to him. She only knew roughly where Ikawa lived, so she couldn't meet him in person. Last month, she thought she saw someone who looked like Ikawa, and asked that man to deliver a letter of apology to Ikawa through her brother and sister. In fact, she saw Ikawa last month. Kanawa says they have visited this town more than once. This is the third time. If they had not found him this month, they would have sent the letter through a lawyer. Handing it over through a lawyer was an option, but they weren't sure Ikawa would accept it. He exhaled and said he wouldn't accept it. Her apology wasn't necessary. It would be enough if they stopped contacting him. Both siblings were deeply sorry. The man said he did not need an apology and asked them to tell him he was glad she got married. Kano thanked him. Show that he thinks this is a very strange story. The criminal married quietly, leaving Ikawa to live in fear of women. In moments like that, you feel it's better to hurt others than to be hurt. The heroes said goodbye to the family of his stalker. Ikawa felt relieved watching them leave. He no longer has to worry about being stalked. This does not mean his rhinestone phase is over, and he is still afraid of girls. Shoei said it might be psychosomatic and offered to help. The other man said it wasn't worth it because he was already causing him so many problems. Ikawa said it was probably time to head back. The hero asked whether he was sure. Ikawa admitted he wasn't. They might be followed. They worried these people might have lied to them. Sono remembered he had to put the groceries in the freezer, and they headed to the cars. Rin glared at the man and said he was late. Ikawa tried to apologize and explain himself. The girl said she was angry. Shohei tensed, glanced at his neighbor, then turned to Yuma and apologized for being late. She turned away from him, clearly offended. Apologizing, the boy said he had to accompany Ikawa and could not just leave him. The chicken kept repeating that he couldn't do it. The young man hugged the animal and thanked her for worrying about him. To be safe, they wrote down a few laps before returning to the village. Ikawa called the lawyer right away to confirm the whole story, and the lawyer said he would have an answer by nightfall. The neighbor realized it was tied to her, and Shohei thought it was fortunate they had not met, because if she had approached Ikawa, things would have been much worse. The man thanked Sino for today and said he had only been sitting next to him. Ikawa said he felt much calmer with him and would have run away like a coward without him. He now felt he should have tried to convince her, but then Ikawa would never learn the truth. As they left, the hero apologized to Yuma, who was probably tired of sitting in the car all day. Once they got home, the chicken got out of the car and said she was tired. The man thanked her, and she walked around and stretched. Shohei faced her and said he'd step aside. The chicken pecked him. Umoto brought the chickens in and praised them for their hard work. The young man was relieved that Tom and Pochi at least got to stretch their legs, while Yuma had to sit all day. The old man said goodbye and handed the man a package of some kind. This time it's canned tangerines. The chickens will eat them, but they are candied, and the hero does not want to deal with cavities later. The chickens were quiet all night, but he kept watch anyway, and even if they had started strutting, there was nothing he could do, since if it hadn't rained, he would have sent them outside to fight. Ikawa at night. That stalker got married last month and now lives far away from here. Since Ikawa wants to be left alone, he told the lawyer he won't accept the letter. The neighbor said he was relieved. Shohei listened without speaking, thinking Ikawa did not want to see her or have anything to do with her. But the hero would not pry into other people's affairs, and Shohei could not understand him. He's not Ikara, and has the right to decide for himself what to do. Uncle watched Pochi and Yuma and said they were doing well, though last week they had barely moved. Then he asked how last night went, and the hero answered that they had a good night's sleep. It's true he doesn't know what will happen today. The old man told him the chickens helped him a lot. They found 3 snakes just yesterday. They found vipers, poisonous snakes. Village life is a constant struggle for survival. The old man said they had caught them across 6 whole fields. He thinks there's no need to go around them anymore. They won't catch anyone. The hero asked if the collector had imported any poisonous snakes from abroad. The collector said it seemed he had, and asked how he had gotten them. Because they are dangerous, you can't just let them out. You may keep the snakes if you complete the paperwork. Grandpa heard someone was bitten recently. People call it a viper, and since it bites someone only once a year, he does not pay attention to it. The main point is there are no non-native snakes. Realizing the danger, the hero decided to warn his chickens. They were told to bring any strange snake to him. Understanding the owner, they dispersed. The hero left the chickens behind and wished the old man well. Shoei realizes Thomas doesn't want to go with him and pecks him in the back. Aikua invited him to come visit. The hero then asked Tama to go with him, but she stayed silent. He tried to tease her, but she started pecking. Tama still does not like Rin and Ten. While they argued, it began to rain. It has been raining a lot lately. The hero would like to walk around the area, but his steps make the ground wet, so he avoids it. Tama will go on patrol. The mud does not bother her. Shaw checked how many abandoned houses were in the area. With no one living there, the house was falling apart. It made sense to tear it down before the rainy season. This will also require money. He is thinking of talking to the headman about it later. The hero told Tama he would go check the house, and the chicken could wander the area for now. When she didn't answer, Sano thanked her and realized that, despite her harshness, she was actually kind. It made him wonder if she was really a tsundere. After those words, Toma began pecking the hero's back. He couldn't understand how she knew what a tsundere was. While inspecting the house, the hero got a message from Katsuragi, who sent a photo of a snake's tail and asked if it was poisonous because it looked like Tatsuki had already eaten it. It baffled him how anyone could identify a snake from the stump of its tail. In a letter, he said he would find out, and if he succeeded, he would reply late that evening. The invasion of snakes seemed endless. The young man searched online for a photo of Katsuragi but found nothing, so he decided to show the photo to his uncle, who was going to Yuma to pick up Pochi soon. Umoto looked at the photo and said it wasn't clear at first. Worried it might be a poisonous snake, he thought the big lizard might not say hello. He added that the girl could bring the stump to him tomorrow. Katsuragi nearly fainted when the hero told her that Tatsuki might be poisoned. The young man understands her perfectly. His chickens once ate poisonous snakes and were fine. Tomorrow, after visiting Ikawa, he thought about seeing her and laughed that he felt like Mr. Popular. Then he looked at his chickens. They looked at him disapprovingly. They turned away completely. Shohei reached out to Yuma, the only person who appreciates him. She turned away, yet the hero believed at least Yuma would never abandon him. The young man realized he wasn't popular at all. What mattered most was that the chickens weren't going crazy again. That was what mattered. The next day, the boy brought two girls, Tama and Yuma, to his uncle. They have a long journey ahead, but first they will wait for Narayama. Yamato asked Sano how the patrols were going, and Sano said so far nothing had changed as they walked toward the mountain. Katsuragi arrived suddenly, greeted them, and apologized for being late. The men said hello to her. The girl handed the major that had a snake's tail. Seeing it, the old man said the snake was not from here and asked to take the tail. The girl agreed and said she just needed to get rid of it. The uncle apologized to the lady for having to travel such a long way. She, in turn, apologized for being unable to help at all. After that, the old man left, the chickens wandered through the garden, and Tetsuki stood by the car. Sano and Mia sat on the veranda. Mia asked Sano about his plans for the day. Sano said he planned to go to the western mountain to see Mr. Ikawa. The girl said they see each other often. The hero confirmed it and said they go to the city together. Katsuragi lowered her head and said she envied them. Hopelessly in love, she cannot even speak to him. The young man realized she was not interested in him. She asked him about his plans for tomorrow, and he said the most he would do was collect the headman's chickens. She asked him to join her for lunch. At last he realized she wasn't interested in him. The hero traveled to Ikawa with Pochi. He doesn't care that she doesn't see him as her boyfriend. Katsuragi is cute, but he doesn't want to flirt with her. He doesn't picture her as his wife, not even in his mind. He doesn't imagine her at all. The hero asked Pochi to catch some crayfish as a gift for Rinton's visit. The chicken stayed silent. The young man assumed the rivers had flooded after heavy rains, so of course it could not make it. Pochi said he would catch it. Seeing the animal, the young man thought its teeth were very sharp, and they decided to go back to catch it. Despite the strong current, he caught 6 in a short time. Wiping Pochi, the hero thought they would catch crayfish first, then poisonous snakes. Walking along the road towards Akawa's house, the young man spotted his snakes. He said hello to Rin and Ten. Pochi was already out of the car and running toward his friends. The hero felt he had been rude for opening the car door without permission. Shohei asked the snakes if his chicken could peck at their insects, and they said they did not mind. Pochi stood motionless as Aikawa stepped out and greeted Sano. Shu began apologizing for being late. Shu and Pochi had only planned to bring crayfish. Before he could say anything, the chicken began pecking at him. Apparently Pochi pecked him because he didn't like that he wanted to blame him for being late. The hero handed him a bucket with a few crayfish. The man thanked him for the gift. The men talked about the bad weather. More importantly, he was okay. Reinin Ten thanked Suno, while Pochi looked indignant. The boy silently apologized to Ikawa's animals because Pochi wasn't used to larger snakes yet. The neighbor said he wanted to visit too. The young man agreed and suggested the day after tomorrow. Shohei invited Katsuragi to visit tomorrow. He noticed that Sono was very popular. The hero turned away and said the girl did not even see him as a man. Pochi watches the water while catching crayfish. Seeing how few crayfish he caught, he becomes very angry. Aikawa set out a lavish table. The hero asked if he always cooked that way. Aikawa said he only cooked that way when guests visited. Remembering that Ikoa had hunted before, the young man decided to invite him to hunt together when the season came. Aikawa says that hardly anyone visits him from spring through summer, so his skills have gotten rusty. People rarely climb this mountain anyway, and the young man thanked him for the treats. He said Sano had helped him a lot, so he didn't need to worry. The man was very grateful to Sano for accompanying him to the city. Shaw said he was no longer needed in the city. When Aikawa said Rin liked Yuma, Shohei realized they had become friends while waiting for them in the car in the city. They were likely having girl talk about interracial topics. The young man is relieved that this whole story is over, Aikawa agreed. He can now live peacefully and has plenty of free time each day. Please note they have vacant houses here and the animals need to be taken to the vet for vaccinations. Aikawa said their case is unique. Here are the animals. The heroes had a good talk, but they did not mention his depressive thoughts about Katsuragi, and by the time they reached Aikawa, he had already forgotten her. The hero took Tama and Yuma from their grandfather. They spent 2 full days clearing the rice fields of poisonous snakes. If there were no snakes, that was fine, but if there were, the chickens ate them. They don't just kill the bastards, they also save someone's life or something like that. Tomorrow, Pachi and Tama will head out on reconnaissance. Today, he went to Katsuragi with Yuma. The sky was covered with leaden clouds. She hires local villagers to clean her mountain. Katsuragi met her neighbor and thanked him for coming. Holding a basket of peas, she didn't greet Tatsuki and went to help Katsuragi. Mia thanked him and said she would make them some tea now. He was sitting on the veranda when Yuma came up to him. The hero told her she could go play. She bowed her head and looked at him. He stroked her head. Every day he and Yuma wash, and now her feathers are so clean. Poki and Tama are clean, too. They clean their feathers with sand or water. If they get dirty, he'll wash them. The man wondered if they needed to be washed so often. They did not complain, so everything was fine. Katsuragi arrived and apologized for the wait. He thanked her and bought her rice cookies. Mia thanked him, said she would go cook some food, and asked him to wait. Yuma and Shohei sat on the veranda. They enjoyed the Japanese summer. Katsuragi returned, apologized for being late, and had prepared a cold soup perfect for the heat. What the guy started eating tasted very good, and the girl was happy about it. Mia offered the hero some green pepper, and he accepted. Mia asked about the snake's tail. The hero said nothing was clear yet. She hopes it's just a regular snake. They sat quietly. Katsuragi was giving Yuma something as a treat. The girl said she had lived here for more than 2 years. She only met Aikawa recently. She'd heard a lot about him, but she didn't expect him to be that handsome. The hero understands her. He thinks he would refuse if she asked him to help them get closer. Even though the stalker problem is solved, Aikawa is still afraid to talk to the girl. Maya asked the man if he thought Aikawa was handsome too. Feeling that something was wrong, the young man replied that he looked like an idol. Mia agreed and said her heart races when they're together. But she told herself she shouldn't be the kind of girl who falls in love even though he has such a pretty face, and she's here to stop being so silly. For that reason, she wants to protect her friendship with Aikawa. Yuma and Sano are shocked and do not understand what the girl is saying. She asks him not to misunderstand her and says she is not a yaoi girl. She'd just be happy if they were friends. Friendship is wonderful. Shohei doesn't understand what she's saying. He said they visit one another. Curious, she asked the man to tell her what they were talking about, assuming it was interesting. The young man remembered recently spending the night at his place while the girl approached and waited for details. She drew as close to him as she could and asked about their trip to the city. In a way, the hero even worries about Katsuragi, but the important thing is that she stays cheerful. She didn't interrupt him once during their talk. He told her that when he stayed overnight at Aikawa's, he got terribly drunk and doesn't remember much, yet the story still delighted her. When the hero left, the girl waved and thanked him for coming. The young man drove away thinking about what Yahweh girl meant. He brought home a lot of green peppers because she grows so many. Shohei was tired. Ikawa wrote asking him to come tomorrow. With no other business besides fetching and carrying chickens, the hero agreed. Since Aikawa is coming to visit them tomorrow, He decided to buy groceries in the village and take on the pochi and tamata work. The young man feels he should treat Ikawa to something tasty, not just meat. As a neighbor, he won't set the table, but he can manage with everyday dishes. A poultry farm called him right away to ask if he'd like to try their new meat and to have him cook the chicken at home. When the woman asked the man if he had eaten lunch, he said he had, and then wished he had waited to eat at their place. He received a whole chicken stuffed with rice, jujube berries, chestnuts, and other ingredients for soup. The husband asked his wife why they needed all this. She said it was for the Korean dish samgitang, and the man was surprised and asked the price. The man said he was only a review. The hero said such a thing would cost 1,000 yen. She told him not to worry. The chicken was unusual, and his opinion mattered to them too. Shaw thinks he should bring a treat next time. After getting a paper with a recipe, he checked the grocery store and went to his uncle's. Children were surprised to see a giant chicken. Sanao told them not to scream or she would peck them, and the boys asked permission to touch her. The man agreed but asked them to be gentler with her. The children were surprised by Yuma's size, but they did not snub him. It seems both adults and children are tolerant in this village. Shohei came to pick up Pokiantama Shajur and praise them for their good work. An old man greeted the boy and asked if he could take some of his vegetables. Umoto gave him permission and said the chickens had found 3 eastern copperheads today, so he could take as many vegetables as he wanted. Sano did not expect so many pests. The man handed the hero a huge basket of vegetables. Shaw realized he would have to cook now. He asked his aunt to teach him to cook. He said he had a lot of green peppers at home, and his aunt shared a Chinese recipe and taught him to use oyster sauce. The hero asked Pochi and Yuma to hunt tomorrow, but Tama approached him. The boy asked what happened. She asked about Ikawa. He said he would come to them tomorrow. Tama said he would go to work. Moving closer to the man's face, he talked about Tama going to work. The hero thinks it's happening too fast. Tama has horribly sharp, terrible things. The young man understood at once, and when he said Ikawa would visit, Tama immediately asked to work instead of Yuma, which showed how much she disliked Rin. When he asked Tama if she really did not want Rin to visit them, she began pecking at the man. Sho shouted that he understood, and then announced that he and Pochi would go hunting tomorrow. Tama felt proud of herself. Sano turned to Yuma and asked if she'd be okay without a job. She pressed against the guy. That showed she agreed. He found her very cute. Preparations for Ikawa's reception were complete. The next day, he left Pochi and Tama in his uncle's care. After asking many people about the snake's tail and getting no answer, he will take it tomorrow to the vet in Ez, whose name I believe is Kimoto. Heavy rain means Ren can crawl more comfortably. The hero has prepared smashed cucumbers and stewed Chinese cabbage. The first course will be samgitang soup, and the second will be the Chinese dish he was taught yesterday. Working in the garden, the boy noticed a car pull up. Ikawa greeted Sano and mentioned the northern weather. The hero agreed with him. Rin and Ten stepped out of the car. Sho thought they were probably cramped in the car. Ikawa said that was a problem, but Ten does not ride with them often either. The man asked Yuma whether Rin and Ten could catch bugs in her yard. The snakes said they wanted crayfish. The neighbors suggested they go to the river. Shohei told them to be careful. It was raining heavily at that moment. Ikawa let Rin and Ten catch crayfish. Some snakes began skillfully catching crayfish while the others watched from the shore. To the hero's surprise, they caught them easily. Ikawa told them he and Sano would stay home. They agreed and stayed in the water. Shohei isn't sure how many crayfish they can eat together, and even if they eat them all, it's not a big deal since there will still be more fish. Ikawa recognized the soup the boy was making, warned the smell wouldn't go away, and Shohei said he'd just turn the ventilation to full blast. The neighbor said it was his first time trying their cooking, and Sano told him not to expect much. He shouldn't set the bar too high in his head. The hero finished this dish and called it Ding Sangxian. Ikawa noticed it smelled delicious. It seemed to be only vegetables, yet it looked luxurious. They decided to start eating while Tan and Ren were still in the river. Ikawa thanked the man for the food. The hero opened the window and said the Korean and Chinese food smelled strong. A neighbor asked if he had really bought Sam Geaton from a poultry farm. The young man confirmed and said they were still testing the product. It seemed his fate depended on his review. The man said he liked Desangzient too. Lots of vegetables go well with rice. The guy agreed with him. I also like the dinner, but the hero thinks this is not enough for hospitality. When the neighbor asked about the hero's visit to Katsuragi yesterday, he confirmed it and added that she had been lonely, so she invited him to visit. Akawa understands her. Living alone is comfortable but sad, so he sometimes invites him to his place. After that, he asked about the partially destroyed houses. The hero admitted he had completely forgotten about them. If they weren't torn down, someone might move in, which would be bad. But demolishing them takes a lot of work. Ika senses tearing down houses is expensive. So many just stand and slowly fall into ruin, which worries him. And he was told he could ask his hunter friends for help. If they get permission to hunt in the area during the work season, they can help demolish houses. Shohei agreed, but worried they might shoot his chickens by mistake. They can only let them use the part of the mountain behind the house, so they will keep the chickens out. And since many hunters have no mountains to train on, he will open the mountain's north side to them. The hero was surprised to learn there were hunters without mountains. Akawa explained they were licensed hunters who lived near the mountains and cared about protecting their fields. Sano agreed it would be better to clear the slope behind the house for them. Akawa admitted it was hard to climb there and suggested they go through his mountain instead, where a shorter path ran and the hunters would not mind. Before deciding, the young man wanted to consult the chickens. Akawa agreed. He would also have to thank the hunter. That help would be very useful to them. Uncertain how things will turn out, the young man hopes for the best. He spoke with Ikawa for a long time. It was clear right away they were on the same wavelength. He checked his watch and thought the chickens would be delivered soon. He told Ikawa the chickens would arrive soon. The man knew Yamato would bring them. They rushed out of the house. The young man suspected they had a problem. It was Ten and Rin. Uncle wanted to see Ten himself, but if he saw Rin, who had been hiding her lower half all this time, it would cause trouble. When they went out, they saw Yuma, and he told her not to let Rin in and to call Tan because the uncle wanted to see him. Yuma tilted her head and gave the boy a questioning look. The boy repeated his point that Rin should not be allowed in, but Tan had to be brought. She answered as best she could and ran to the snakes, while the hero thinks he appeared to have explained it clearly. Aikawa was surprised she understood, and Sho says ordinary pets would not understand his speech, but his chickens are unusual. While Yuma walked to the river, the hero thought he was being too protective of his chickens. Shohei and Akawa shared a look when they heard a car approaching. The neighbor said it was close and quietly sighed with relief. Umoto saw Ikawa and realized Ikawa had come to see him. Shohei confirmed it all and thanked his uncle for bringing the chickens. Paki and Tama stepped out of the car and looked around. The old man asked about the girl who usually travels with the owner of the Western Mountain, and someone answered that she was working in the field. Aikawa said he had come with his kite. The old man told him he had heard he owned a huge one and asked where he was. Sano said Yuma had gone to look for him, so they would probably be back soon. Poki approached the owner, who realized they were trying to calm him down, and told them to come over so he could dry them. Yuma and Tan were approaching and the man praised the chicken. The snake loomed over the headman. Umoto recoiled, startled by how big it was, and Aikawa said it was his pet snake. He invited him to come over. The old man asked how many meters long it was, and the neighbor said he hadn't measured it but thought it was about 4 meters. The uncle said it was heavy. The man agreed. You can't carry something that heavy in your arms. Even his head alone weighs that much. Ten rested his head on Ikawa's shoulder while Ikawa stroked him. Yamato noticed Ten's obedience and saw that he loved Ikawa. Shohei already has enough chickens. Maybe they'll help with the festival stall. Sho asked whether the villagers themselves run the stalls at festivals. The old man agreed, but most counters aren't like that, because the village is full of elderly people who don't have the strength to sit behind a counter all day. If the neighbor remembers correctly, they will carry a palanquin at the festival, and Uncle asked him to tell us if anyone volunteers, since taking part is voluntary and no one will be forced. Yamato asked Shohei to help with the festival preparations, and Shohei agreed, telling Yamato to call whenever he needed help. The elder decided to go home and said he'd tell him once he learned which snake the tail belonged to. The hero thanked him and said goodbye. When the headman left, Shohei and Ikawa exhaled. Ikawa said it was good Shohei had seen the old man would arrive soon. Shohei said it was his fault for getting carried away in the conversation. Remembering Rin, they decided to call her, and the hero asked Pochi to fetch her. When Ikawa left, Tama began pecking. She clearly did not want to see Ten and Rin. That showed how much she hated snakes. It was scary to approach Tama. He phoned the poultry farm to thank Matsuyama for the samgitan, said it was delicious, but the smell needed some work, mentioned that Ikoa also liked the sir, and was told they would take his comments into account and call him again later. On Saturday night, someone called the hero, and the old man told him it was a rattlesnake's tail. Moto, you confirmed everything and said it might not be her at all. The man thanked him and realized they don't live in Japan. He has to tell Katsuragi this, but he does not want to alarm her. Police veterinarians say the businessman took the poisonous snakes as pets, but it is still unclear how they were so irresponsibly released into the nearby fields. The entrepreneur probably couldn't have predicted his death, but he still had to think about what would happen to the snakes after he was gone. The chickens might pet him to death, but they are not eternal either. On the one hand, these snakes were raised indoors and then left without an owner. And when you think about it, you feel sorry for them and worry about what will happen to his chickens. Then he called out the chickens' names and said he would live a long time. They just turned away, and he thought it was cruel. Only Yuma pressed herself against him, and he shouted her name and hugged her. At times like that, he feels only she understands him, though Pochi and Thomas should understand as well. They ran up the mountain to vent their anger, and because of them, no animals remain around the house, where he once saw raccoons and wild boars that are now gone. Then the hero noticed movement in the bushes and got scared. However, it was Pochi with a snake in his beak. The guy told him to eat him. He and Yuma walked slowly around the fields, looked over the river, and checked the road. He knows they need railings for a fence, but since this is his territory, he must buy everything for it himself. Shohei told a nervous Katsuragi about the snake's tail. Katsuragi called him and yelled into the phone about what they should do now because it was a rattlesnake. The young man pulled the phone away from his ear to protect his hearing and told the girl to calm down, stay close to Tatsuki, and everything would be fine. They would hardly help her with the snakes, so he told her to try persuading Tatsuki to look for them, and she said she would talk to him and thank him. Chickens help the hero, but he cannot send them to Katsuragi because this is Tatsuki's territory, and the reptile will not let anyone interfere no matter how much the girl wants it. Maya is very sweet, responsible, and kind. Everyone around her loves her, and she never causes anyone trouble. It's a pity that no one notices someone as ideal as Katsuragi. The man grew sad and started to think he didn't need love or weddings. Akawa suddenly wrote to him that he was grateful it was Friday, and that they had quickly taken Rin from her uncle, though that was not something to be thankful for. And Rin was not the only one who was strange. Having the chickens there was a relief, and he hoped they were doing well. They had nearly finished their assigned work, so all he had to do was wait for the rainy season to end. The chickens are busy, and the weather hasn't changed. It rained for half the week, then the days were cloudy. In the mountains, it rained every evening. The climate here is different from lower down. Trouble started when the chickens were finishing their last shift. Heading to the village to buy groceries, the hero remembered his chickens were working in the nearby fields. Pochi and Tama had not been seen working for a long time. That thought made him stop the car. He saw the chickens working and noticed children there as well. The hero watches and realizes that one more move will let Pochi hit the child with its tail. Unfortunately, that is what happens. As a result, the child fell into the water and a woman screamed. The young man ran to help and asked how the girl was. She said she was fine and laughed. The hero felt relieved to hear her laugh. She spoke rudely to the hero and he apologized for his chickens. She asked if he owned the chickens, and Shohei confirmed it. The stranger asks the boy why he quit caring for the huge chickens. Everyone knows the birds are here to kill snakes, but because of them, people cannot work in the fields. Sano told them not to try to approach them. She kept shouting that they caused her child to fall into the water. Seeing Yuma's angry look, Shohei asked her in his mind not to start pecking. The boy said it was his fault when he went to play with Pochi, and the other children agreed it was their fault for not thinking about how long Pochi's tail was, so the girl hugged the chicken and apologized to him. She shouted that it did not change the fact he was dangerous. Shohei bowed, apologized sincerely, and promised to listen to her. He believes any reaction will be met with hostility, so all he can do is bow his head to resolve the conflict peacefully. Yumoto then came over and noticed how popular Pochi had become. The woman's husband stood next to him, saw the main character bow to her, and asked what had happened. Shohei noticed they were a young couple, and the girl seemed to be explaining something to the guy. Calling his son Makoto, the man told him to wash up and gave the same instruction to the main character. Sano invited the boy to join him. While they washed up, Yamato and Makoto's parents had a heated argument. The boy noticed this and apologized to the guy, explaining he had only wanted to play with Pochi. Shohei smiled at him and asked him not to come near Pochi while he was working in the future. They spotted Pochi, who had come to check on the boy. Arriving at Makoto's, he carried a girl in his arms. He simply stared at him. Yet his chickens are gentle birds. The boys thanked the hero and said his mother seemed very nervous. One boy agreed and added, "That's what a mother is for. His chickens are huge." The boy asked if they'd be sold at the summer festival and said he wanted one too. Shohei walked up to the boy's parents, and the woman bowed and apologized to the boy. Feeling nervous, he said he should apologize. The man bowed his head and blamed their son. They were sorry because he was helping them get rid of the snakes. Sano said his chickens were enormous, almost frightening, and the main thing is their son wasn't hurt. Umoto told the children not to come near because the chickens were working now, hunting poisonous snakes that had to be killed and the area was dangerous. The children understood the old man but kept talking to Pochi and Tama. Sano said Makoto seemed unhurt, but his parents would still keep an eye on him. He also asked someone to tell the children not to cling to the chickens. They have very long tails. People started questioning whether his chickens were normal, but the talk soon died down, and in the end, even that girl was smiling. Naturally, mothers worry about their children, and no matter how much you explain, they will fear huge birds appearing in their area. Maybe the boy should attend the village meetings too. They heard a reply from the old man and asked if he could join the village gathering. He looked at the man seriously and said he would tell everyone. This should have been done much earlier. The villagers treated him so well that he completely forgot his chicken's odd habits. He should be much more careful. A child approached Sano and asked to play with the chickens. Sano said they could, but only after they finished their work. He looked at the chickens, and Yamato said they were finished for the day. Children rushed to play with Pochi, Tama, and Yuma. After changing his clothes, Makoto wanted to play with the chickens. Someone said it was good to have children. The hero agreed and added that children were the flowers of their lives, and those flowers had to be looked after. He had no idea the children liked his chickens so much. You might say it was because he rarely went down the mountain. At first the children were afraid of the chickens because they were big, but by the next day they were best friends. Yes, the children are clearly interested. Every day they ask where they can buy these chickens. The hero did not know that when they returned, they always went to patrol the mountains as if nothing had happened. Yamato said that after the chickens finished their work, the young man could let them play in the field with the children at least once a week, and they would be happy. Shohei said it was a good idea. Since the kids liked the chickens, they could let them out sometimes, and letting them out only once a week was too much. When a girl screamed, Umoto and Shohei turned and saw a chicken holding a snake in its beak. The old man knew it was an island snake. He told them to let it return. The girl said she had been very scared and then thanked Yuma. The uncle was surprised to find himself afraid of the snake. She replied that a snake is still a snake and snakes are frightening. She then asked Sano for his opinion. He agreed and said his chickens catch both snakes and vipers. The children were surprised to see vipers crawling on the mountain. Makoto wondered why the young man lived on the mountain. It would be best not to go down to them. He considered it. Sano said there were reasons and that the hero would understand when he grew up. The hero wasn't sure he did, but the remark felt appropriate this time. The children are looking for chickens, and the hero noticed. Umoto said that at this rate they will be called to school. Sano wants his chickens to run around the mountains in peace. After some time, the children Pochi, Yuma, and Tomahome became upset. Shohei asked whether they would be back here tomorrow, and the old man said they would not be working anywhere nearby. He called out to the children that they would come again tomorrow. They agreed and said goodbye to the chickens. Today, he looked at the chickens in a whole new way. Back home, the hero tells them this is their last shift this week. They confirm they want to work later. The uncle said they needed help from nearby settlements. That would give the chickens more work, but the old man couldn't afford to pay. The man was considering giving up. It was unclear whether his chickens wanted to work. They said they don't want to work and won't do it. Surprised, the boy thought they liked playing with the kids, but Pochi and Thomas said they preferred the mountains, and Yuma liked Sano. Make it clear he realized you needed to appear to enjoy being with him. Pochi and Tom try hard. Even though they like walking in the mountains, he asks to stay with them, but they turn him away, and the hero feels like he is going to cry. That morning, the boy came to the old man. They greeted each other, and the hero spoke to him about work. He said the chickens were tired of her. Another man replied that the main thing was the chickens did not press and he would refuse them. The guy thanked him. He asked the boy whether he was sure he wanted to attend the meeting. He confirmed and asked whether that would be a problem. The man doesn't mind joining since his chickens caught snakes, but only stubborn old men will attend the meeting, and while they don't oppose him joining, he doubts they will let him speak. To them, he is a stranger, so they have nothing useful to tell him. Someone told him to expect to be unwelcome, and if he cannot accept that, it is better not to go. The hero said everything would be fine and that he should visit them at least once. The meeting is Saturday evening, and they'll apparently talk over drinks. Unsure how the chickens will cope without him, he thinks leaving them alone for one evening will be fine, but it still feels unsettling. Aikawa offered to leave them with him, but Tama would hardly agree to spend a year with snakes, and they would start fighting, so he refused the offer. Since he stayed with the chickens last time, spending the night wasn't a problem. He told the hens he needed to talk to his uncle on Saturday. He would probably stay with him overnight. He asked whether they wanted to stay on the mountain or go to his uncle. The chickens looked at each other. Thomas said she wanted to stay on the mountain, while Yuma and Pochi wanted to go together. The boy thanked them. It was no wonder Thomas wanted to stay on the mountain, and Pochi and Yuma wanted to go with him. He told his uncle he would come with them, and his uncle said that would make things even better in the future. That was the end of Friday night.